Good morning. It is the 18th day of May 2021. Good morning once again. Good to see you. How are you doing? You are right in time for Good Morning Kenya. As always, this is the show that kickstarts your day with all that you need to know that happened in the last 24 hours. We are ahead of the pack, right? Yes. My name is Victor Lo, and I'm not alone. As always, I'm joined by beautiful ladies. Director? Tereng, tereng. There you have it. One, another one, another one, another one. That one, that good. Now you can give us a split. That was a good one. There you go. No. Split. Go. Split. Okay. Either way, you'll have to bring it, all right? So, yes. We are here once again. We appreciate your good time. We hope that you had a good sleep. And, of course, whatever you're doing, as always, what you didn't do well yesterday, you have got another chance. That is why we have got a new dawn. As always, my name is Victor Lo, and the show starts right now. But before then, let them introduce themselves, starting with Jane.
You know, you started by saying today is the 18th of May, and this is a very special date to me.
Yes.
Today, my son is officially a year old.
Kasumbua.
Hey, Alpha. He is Alpha, man. It's been a beautiful year, and of course...
Happy birthday to him.
Happy birthing day to me.
Okay.
Today is my birthing day. Yeah, last year, today like this.
Things happen.
Things happen.
Exactly 1 year
But,
ago.
you know, we always live to appreciate, you know, these days. You know, there's one who, I think it was towards the end of last year when I really started to appreciate birthdays because looking at what a birthday really means, you know, it's something that you should take time to think of and just learn to appreciate yourself. So to everyone who has a birthday today, happy birthday to my sweet little boy. Today is going to be a very emotional day for me, but nonetheless, happy. You know, so many children lose their lives before they get to one. So by virtue of actually just getting to this 1 year mark, that is something I'm thoroughly proud of. So happy birthday day to me.
All right, okay. And even us who've made it this far.
By association.
Yes.
Nonetheless,
to Alpha.
Absolutely, thank you.
Absolutely.
And nonetheless, we have an amazing show lined up. Kawakaida, we thoroughly appreciate you for choosing to start your morning with us. My name is Jane Wamboy. Regina.
Indeed, and since it is your birthing date and Alpha's birthday, as a friend, I would want to claim prosperity, harmony, and success to your son Alpha.
You've never seen Jane blush. You've never seen Jane blush.
It's always a mother's wish that their children, you know, become healthy, prosperous, and grow in love and harmony. That's what I claim from you, for you and your son, Jane. So happy birthday to Alpha, and happy birthing day to you, Jane. 4 p.m. is a date, right? 4 p.m. is a time.
Kick-off. 8:25 ndio final whistle. If you know.
We start the kick-off then. You know, women have shared some tales there during labor. Some strip, some lose their minds. But all in all, we appreciate God for the gift of motherhood.
Truly.
Good morning once again. You're watching KBC Channel 1. This is Good Morning Kenya. And as far as news making headlines in the last 24 hours, now the Senate decided Wajir governor is out on account of gross misconduct. There were 17 cases that were cited and 25 voted to impeach him. He is the third to be impeached, but a place where he got impeached is the same place, same avenue that some got off. We'll be highlighting that as we continue to just hear matters of politics and people's views coming up shortly with Victor. And now Ruto, Raila and Matiang'i are going to be locking horns. Why? The by-elections that are happening in Bonchari that are set for today, as well as in Juja constituency. We remember MP Francis Waitito died of cancer on February 2021, actually 22nd. And he was elected on a Jubilee ticket. So we have Waitito, Susan Jerry, vying for that particular seat under the Jubilee ticket, and Dongo George Kiomburi Progressive Empowerment Party. That is what is happening in Juja constituency. At the same time, in Nyandarua County, we are having a Rori ward by-election, where MCA Mboro Githenji died early this year on the 11th. And we have several candidates there, including our representatives of Jubilee Party, that is Kiringa Peter Githenji, Githaiga Francis Muyo of UDA. And now let's cross over to Bonchari constituency, where Achola Simon is also on standby to bring us up to speed with what is happening on ground there. MP John Oro Oyonka died after long illness beginning of February, that is February 15th in this year, in Kisumu, and he had been elected on a People's Democratic Party ticket. Now, some of those who are going to be main contenders for this particular seat are none other than Omieke Robert Pavel. You remember him of the former EPRA. There under the ODM party ticket. We have Opore Zebedeo John of the Jubilee Party and Oro Teresa Bitutu of the United Democratic Alliance. What we need to know is that after failing to win the recent Kabushai and Matungu by-election, Ruto has really been working hard to just make inroads into Nyanza, to penetrate Nyanza, and he's using Bonchari to penetrate Nyanza ahead of the 2022 elections. Those are some of the stories that are making headlines in the last 24 hours, and we have eyes and ears on ground. So do keep it right here to get, you know, what is going to be happening on ground during those by-elections, as well as other stories, including now Rastafarians want it to be legal to smoke marijuana in public. Will it sell through? These are the details. I mean, someone else take it over after me. We just finished with the marijuana in public there.
It was a moment of silence for
to think
Alpha.
about it.
It was a moment of silence for Alpha. You don't know what, Jane, I'm so lucky. Jane, you're also lucky that the camera didn't get you.
Yes.
Jane was praying. That silent meditation, like, countdown to that moment that things happen in the labor ward.
Today, by the way.
And here we are.
Here we are.
Okay. In the headlines, Regina has said it all, but we are going to get more details and give you details what has been happening in the last 24 hours. Of course, matters Juja and Bonchari, and of course we have got our reporters on the ground who are going to give us one-on-one, that is a live feed from such constituencies, to give us a feel of what is happening down there on the by-elections. Therefore, we are going to be talking to our reporters later on in the program to just tell us what is happening down there in Juja and Bonchari. All right, so let me start with the Star newspaper here, and the front page of the Star. There we have it. All right. Uhuru and Raila troops mal plan B to salvage BBI. All right. That's on the front page of the Star newspaper. Uhuru and Raila troops mal plan B to save BBI. Despite optimism for a win at the Court of Appeal, pro-BBI forces explore parliamentary process. This is something that we are also going to discuss with our panelists later on in the program, to tell us what are some of the chances of going back to Parliament and what are some of the bills that can be amended in Parliament without going to a referendum. All right? Still on the front page of the Star, I almost died in my sleep, says Ghost Mule. Harambee Stars head coach Jacob Ghost Mule says that he's lucky to be alive today. After saying that he's celebrating, the tactician said that he could have easily died in his sleep if he had not made a timely trip to India, where he's currently stuck getting treatment. And of course, we still wish him a quick recovery for him to come back to the country and serve his country. All right. Uhuru and Raila face acid test in mini polls. That is still happening in the Juja and Bonchari by-elections. That is happening right now. The electoral agency will today conduct 2 parliamentary by-elections, likely to give momentum to parties preparing for the 2022 general elections. All right. Something that I know is quite close to Jane. Bang, key to spiritual growth. Legalize it. Urge Rastafarians. Okay, Jane.
You woke up and chose violence, Victor.
No. Okay, pass that. Pass. Let's pass about the Kushi Penguin. We're going to tell you how it happened. They went to the court yesterday, and they want Bang legalized because they say it is key to their spiritual growth. And why Senate team recommended Wajir Governor Abdi's removal. That is also going to be giving. You're going to be given details on what happened in the Senate yesterday evening, and right now he stands impeached. If all goes well, we are also going to have an MCA from Wajir County to give us a feel as well on what's happening in that particular county and what they should expect moving forward. Jane.
Let's now have a quick look at the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Let's just start with the top right there. And the question is, are you wondering why you still haven't received your Huduma number card? Well, that is a story that has been captured here on the page 3 of the Daily Nation. Just looking at the number of issues that have been brought forth when it comes to the issuance of Huduma card numbers. We'll be coming to it in a bit. On to some health conversations. Is that a big miss on health for all? And once again, Kenya fails to put its cash into what really matters. And this is in regards to the budget that has been allocated to the Ministry of Health in the 2021-2022 financial year. Because, experts were expecting that, funds that would go towards the containment and fight of COVID-19 would be included in this budget, an estimated 34 million. But looking at the budget that has been allocated to the ministry, that figure is not included. We'll be coming to that in a bit. Coming to the main story here on the front page of the Daily Nation is that court throws power plant into a spin. Just looking at last week's judgment declaring the bill to change the constitution null and void has now scuttled a deal for an anticipated super alliance, which of course was hinged upon the proposed creation of new executive positions. Of course, the twists and turns continue to unfold post that particular ruling by the 5-judge bench. We'll be coming to that story in a bit. Finally, why Senate impeached Governor Mahmood. We'll be giving you these details in a bit, and of course further on having a conversation with my colleague in not too long in regards to this particular happening. Ray.
Talking about stories that are making headlines, it seems that the scribes once again have been reading from the same script. And as far as those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours, matters of BBI, we have seen a silent president since that surprise judgment there that, almost put a stop to matters of BBI. But what are the options there in? It seems that BBI promoters are a little bit also just keeping silent over this matter, planning, just being also aware that whatever process that they may get into may not bear fruit. Who am I talking about? Remember, political pundits as well as, politicians themselves have been whispering, saying that this the BBI report and the sailing of it, that particular constitutional amendment bill, might just, change dynamics when it comes to succession politics of 2022. We'll be giving you details in not too long. And also with just the budget presentation just about weeks away. Question is, will it be a populist budget, being that this is the last year, or rather the last term for President Uhuru Kenyatta, as per the constitution there? Will he have met his Big Four agenda, and will the Big Four agenda feature heavily in the budget? Remember, we had so much. We had housing, we had, manufacturing, food security, and affordable housing there, food security and spurring manufacturing. Now, some of the things that have been quoted here on matters finances this morning just notifies that, VAT, 16% VAT will be levied on the supply of ordinary bread. We have 25% on imported glass, excise duty levied on imported motorcycles, just to name but a few. What options then does the National Treasury have? Some of the experts, and I'd want to quote Nikhil Hira, has quoted in this particular pullout of the Standard this morning, that he is the director of Bowman's Kenya. He says that now the taxman, that is the Kenya Revenue Authority, must ease tax filing to boost revenues. We'll be giving you details of this, including where do we stand when it comes to matters of pandemics. How have we, the pandemic that we find ourselves, how are Kenyans reacting to this pandemic, what we're referring to the COVID-19 disruptions. According to a statement here, it indicates that now the pandemic has pushed more people into loans for survival. And this is according to data received by the Central Bank of Kenya that shows personal and household loans have shot up drastically since March last year when the country reported the first case of COVID-19. And, you know, the subsequent COVID-19 disruptions, loss of livelihoods. Now Kenyans have had to look for credit. According to Samuel Nyandemo here, an economics lecturer from the University of Nairobi, the incomes were dwindling, so they had to cushion themselves from the devastating effects of COVID-19, leading them to taking loans. Being that this is an active and a live broadcast, our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1 News. Give us your feed in regard to how you have survived and how you continue to survive the COVID-19 disruptions at a time when experts are also warning that the fourth wave might just be more serious than anticipated. Why? Because of the issues of, you know, going back to school, exposure, and the variant that has been reported in the country. That and so much more. Details coming up in not too long. Doreen.
Right. Doreen is missing in action today.
Oh, I kind of assumed that I could see her. Maybe it's just wanting her to be on set. You know, it's usually a team of 4. So we always want to see each other on the same platform. But over to you, Victor. You are equally capable.
Absolutely.
Representing.
Absolutely. I've been called names here. I will tell you about it later on in the program. But I choose peace. All right. So viral video cop says that no one is helping her to stop harassment. There's that cop called Vivian Hailin in Mombasa. And 7 days after the IG, that is Hilary Mutyambai, ordered for a statement, an investigation to be done and a report handed and tabled in his office after 7 days, now it's being revealed that nothing has happened yet, and the lady is still waiting for the report and subsequent action to be taken. She's been requesting and pleading for her to quit service in peace. In fact, she said that she wants to peacefully resign from the service. Now, she's been saying that she's been alleging that over the years, she's been facing a lot of sexual harassment from the male officers just after she was transferred from Kamkunji police station here in Nairobi to Mombasa. And therefore, she said that she's being needed to record a statement at the Central Police Station where she works. But the question is, she's asking herself that how do they expect her to record a statement from the same officers who harass her? How is that even possible? All right? So that is the question. So to date, she has not received any report from the office of the IG. All right, yesterday, Abdi pleaded for leniency as panel backs removal. She was impeached as the Wajir governor. And now, according to panel chaired by Nyamira Senator Okongo Mugeni, announced to gross violation of Article 43(1) of the Constitution on the right to best attainable health standards. And she said that as a result, the committee was sustained the charge on gross violation of the Constitution, the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act, the Public Finance Management Act, and the County Governments Act, but the governor urged the House to carefully study the charge sustained by the committee and give him another chance. He was accused of misappropriation of funds and gross misconduct in the particular county. Of course, we are also waiting to have a Zoom meeting with one of the MCAs from that particular county to give us an insight and a feel on what is happening down that particular county. Now, that story, the Rastafarians went to court yesterday, filed a case by the Rastafari Society seeking legalization of marijuana as essential to their religion. Now, they say that smoking ban is part of Rastafarians' freedom of religion and is essential to grow spiritually and connect with their maker. This is what lawyer Shadrach Wamboi told the court yesterday. Now, he represents the Rastafari Society of Kenya, RSK, which is seeking the legalization of bang, which is now illegal in Kenya. Okay, let me quote. Now, for Rasta to enjoy his freedom of religion, for Rasta to fully manifest his faith, it requires of him or her to frequently use marijuana or what is commonly known as kushupen, Jane, to create that connection between themselves and their maker. Jane, what do they say there, man?
You are burn, man. You finna burn.
Me don't feel say bad, man.
Well, it's interesting to see what responses will come from this. It's not the first time this has happened. There are even songs that go about saying legalize, legalize, legalize.
Yeah.
And conversations around marijuana has been, or rather have been quite emotive for most people who have been championing it. So we wait and see how this will play out. Ray, unaona zika maneno? What you say about this story?
I was hoping you're kind of going to leave me out of that.
Why?
You know, there's always this misconception that if you have dreadlocks, you are Rastafari.
Nashkisha.
But things are changing, especially when it comes to fashion, sense, and style here, where just having dreadlocks does not necessarily mean you are a Rastafari. But now this plea by Rastafarians saying you need to legalize marijuana.
For spiritual reasons.
Yes, for spiritual reasons. It takes me back to a conversation that found itself in the floor of the House at the National Assembly with conversations that we need to legalize marijuana even for medicinal purposes. Well, it's the holy herb, if you believe so, and it grows naturally. Actually, I don't even know if marijuana requires fertilizer. I think a person who consumes it needs to come out and reach out to us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1 News. But hey, we say, if you have nothing to say, choose kindness. And I choose to be kind. So Rastafarians want to smoke marijuana in public. I don't know how that will sit with the government, but there are countries where they are actively growing marijuana. One of them being Israel, I think, for medicinal purposes. So it's a matter of how we put it and how we use it.
Absolutely.
But then there's something called third-party smoking. Yeah? Have you ever been in a concert? I remember a reggae concert, and I'm not trying to be very judgy. Luciano, when he came to the country, I attended that concert. And funny enough, I was just at the podium, below the podium, but I never saw what he had on in terms of his feet because it was all smoke. I came to later learn that was weed when I started laughing like a fool.
You know,
so that is third party inhaling.
Speaking of that,
it's about public smoking of marijuana. What happens to the next person who's seated next to you and they're not smoking marijuana?
That goes to even, this shows that, not even shows, when we're having cases where they have confiscated marijuana and they burn it in public, in open air. That is now direct infusion. So let's wait and see how this goes. But looking at marijuana in some of the states that it is legalized, it's quite a thriving business. It's a very high income generating business for those who have ventured into it, and especially some of those who are specialized into the different strains. There's a whole documentary, many documentaries actually, you can be able to watch and just see how people are making the most out of this herb, and especially medicinal purposes, not just for recreational purposes. So you wait and see how that will play out. Now let's come to the back page of the Daily Nation. And this is in regards to a situation that has been termed as a big miss for the Ministry of Health. And this is in regards to the proposed budget for 2021, financial year 2021-2022. And now It is said that the country has missed the mark again because we are seeing many other countries are putting up, or rather freeing up, resources which are going to be directed towards the financial war against the virus. Kenya, on the other hand, whose budget expenditure has ballooned by nearly 300 billion, is now focusing on how to repay the interests that are mounting in debt. So in this particular budget, it was expected that there would be provision for COVID-19 and COVID-19 interventions, including the purchase of vaccines, testing, as well as scientific research. And just looking at that particular, these expectations that were to be put in the particular, to be accounted for in the cost, there was an estimated 34 billion that was supposed to be in this budget that would go towards the vaccinating of 30% of the population. But looking at the proposed budget, the ministry has been allocated 121 billion Kenya shillings. And compared to the financial year 2019-2020, the budget that was allocated to the ministry was 119 billion Kenya shillings this current financial year that we are in. And experts have come out to say that this is just shooting ourselves in the foot, because just getting to the details of this particular budget is that they've also cut budgets of the two biggest referral hospitals, that is the Kenyatta National Hospital and the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, which have received 15.2 billion and 11.2 billion Kenya shillings respectively. And looking at the cuts that they have had to experience is that Kenyatta has had its budget cut by 100 million Kenya shillings, and Moi Teaching and Referral has had its budget cut by 200 million Kenya shillings. So what does this say about the plans that the country has in line with fighting COVID-19 and containing the pandemic, and especially now that we are witnessing a new variant here in the country? So critics have had a lot to say about this, and they are saying that we are definitely facing the wrong direction when it comes to the fight against COVID-19. Ray, imagine that.
Now, talking about, did you mention matters of COVID-19? We want to look at what is happening across Tanzania. Remember, now Tanzania had denied vehemently the issue of COVID-19 for a year. But now with the change of guard at the top of the helm, it seems things are changing. Now, a report by a task force in Tanzania has acknowledged that the first case of COVID-19 were reported in the country in March 2020. And now says Tanzania is confirming COVID-19 and warns of serious third wave. Now, part of the report further says that we also recommend the herbal medicines being promoted as cures of COVID-19 be put under rigors of science. Suluhu there, Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu there, just changing how things are and as far as matters of health in neighboring Tanzania could be. Now, talking about matters of human interest, last week you highlighted what was happening within the South African judiciary, that now plans are underway to have a change in policy. Now, the country Department of Home Affairs recently published a policy document pushing for polyandry. What does polyandry mean? That a woman can have several husbands. Well, South Africa and Kenya are quite similar in this, because in Kenya, the law recognizes polygyny, where a man can marry more than one wife. But now these things are changing in South Africa. And this article written here is just an opinion in regard to that matter, where the person contributing says that in as far as, you know, they are happy about it, it's because slowly by slowly patriarchy is getting dismantled and gender equality is gaining ground. I don't know what you have to say in regard to that matter there, issue of polyandry. I don't think in the current society right now, the issues of marriage are quite emotive. And men already in South Africa are not happy about that particular proposal. They are calling it a mockery of the marriage institution. And let me be the devil's advocate before I throw it to you, Victor and Jane. So it becomes a mockery of a marriage institution when a woman now goes for equal rights when it comes to her partners there, but it was okay if the man had several wives. We were not making a mockery out of the marriage institution. While you're still pondering on that and ready to respond, according to Grey Divorce, or other matters of divorce, there's someone here who's saying money is not the only glue that can hold a marriage together. And they go forward to say today, walking out of a marriage is not as stigmatized as it was once. If one is miserable in a relationship, they can walk away instead of spending their sunset years dragging a toxic weight. But the question is, ukiwachwa utawachika? Ama ukiwachana utawachana kabisa?
As we take a breather, we'll be back to answer that. Stay with us.
You know that disease and accidents occur suddenly and when least expected. If you have a medical insurance policy, it gives you peace of mind knowing that your medical expenses will be catered for by insurer up to your policy limit. Now you know. IRA, promoting insurance, protecting the insured.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye QuickBin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353, alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickBin ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake hizo miaka zote. Mtu ajui kujua kuandika note. Note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli itasaidia.
Nini nakusumbua na nini?
Nauliza, ni bwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama yetu.
Don't you dare.
Haya, kwani ni vita? Nini wewe? Yaani wataka kumpiga? Huwezi mpiga mzike nini?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You're really gonna take me?
Yes, sir. You're afraid to take the bike you broke and fixed, huh?
What do you mean?
Hold on tight. I drive fast.
Hold you tight?
Chan can't answer the phone right now. She asked me to take her calls.
What? What's she doing? Why can't she answer herself?
Hello?
Hugo, where are you? Actually, I don't care. If you're not back within 20 minutes, I will be out of here by tomorrow. You understand?
I'm dead tired. You're so dead? It's a figure of speech. I'm gonna marry your dad.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I really don't know what to say. You know, I just couldn't come up with a reason.
Amaya, I can provide you a reason. Yes, and I'm sure that Maximiliano will finally leave you alone after that.
Now I'm getting more convinced that it was you who's behind the flood in the warehouse and the harvest robbery at El Paraíso. I have no doubt that was you.
Constanza, dear, don't. You mustn't hurt yourself this way, don't. It's not worth it. Listen, the love that you have once shared with Max just doesn't exist anymore.
Actually.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We do appreciate you for continuing on this journey with us. In case you're just joining us, my name is Jane. This is Good Morning Kenya, and we are right in the middle of In the Headlines. This is where we get to have a look at the papers this morning. And before we get to continue, before the break, Ray ulikuwa umeuliza swali nyeti hapo. Ningependa uitukue tena.
Now, this is in regard to the proposal document down in South Africa there, where there's a proposal to support, or rather include, or make it okay for women to have multiple partners, husbands to be precise. That is what we refer to as polyandry. Currently, they recognize polygyny just as Kenya. And the scribe in this particular daily that I was borrowing from has also quoted and contributors saying that money is not only the only glue that keeps together a marriage. And they went further to say that these days it is not, there's no much stigma for a man or a woman leaving their marriage, unlike it was before, because people have realized, or are slowly realizing, that toxic relationship equals to dead weight that would affect their performance at the present and the future. Then the question I posed unto you then, ukiwachwa utawachika, ama ukiwachana, are you ready to live with the consequences? You know, we know that there are people out here who are quite jealous. They walk out, but they still want to maintain what they walked out on. That's a bit also very toxic, don't you think?
Absolutely, and that boils down to relationships. You know, they usually say that if you are still friends with your ex, it's one of two things. Either you are still into them, or you never really were. You know? And looking at just that example you've given, Ray, when you've gone your separate ways and one still wants to be involved in the other person's life in a very unhealthy way, and mostly because of jealousy, just to see if they can move on without you, or to prove a point. Toxicity. It presents itself in subtle ways like that when you're honest. And that's why we were talking about this yesterday, Victor, where you see so many people getting back with their exes because maybe one of the partners alikataa kuachika, you know? Na anataka hataki the other partner to get to move on. So if you mutually agree to go your separate ways, please, mukubali kuachana, and you go your separate ways in peace. And that, by virtue of that, things are definitely going to change. Whether you like it or not, you cannot continue communicating the way you used to communicate, and you are not in a relationship anymore. You cannot continue to be as close as you used to be before. Given you have chosen to go your separate ways, the least you can do in terms of communication is just be cordial, especially if there are kids involved in that particular case. But otherwise, mtu achane na mwenzako, endelee na maisha yake. But this story, what's happening down in South Africa, I think it's about time. For whatever reasons, they decided to make this proposal basing it on issues of equality. They have weighed and seen that uko hivi by the situation yetu iko hivi, because in the West we're having throuples that are thriving. You know, 3 people who are in one marriage and they're thriving. So maybe we also have to keep up with the times, you know. Victor.
Victor.
All right.
As you clear your throat.
2 issues. One,
yes,
the issue with South Africa, I'll still go back and base it
on the Bible.
The Bible.
Please, no.
That's my argument. While you're speaking, I was completely quiet.
Now it is your time.
Ray doesn't want to hear of this. I know. But hey, let's just pick it. When relationship hits rock bottom, the only thing that can happen is go your separate ways. It helps a lot. But one thing that should happen is respect. Respect each other's space. That's it. all right? Two people are human. I mean, you're all human beings coming from different backgrounds. Just respect that space and let it be so. If you're not meant to be, treat it as such. Let's go to South Africa. All right, so equality. Well, according to them, there's something, Jane, you said they have seen and they've tested and they now want to make certain changes in their constitution or whatever, you know, the marital laws in their land. That works for them. But the question is, how is it going to work? Okay? Male species are always known to be dominant. We always want to dominate our spaces. Even animals.
Very possessive.
Exactly. Even animals. You've seen bulls fighting.
Kajogo.
Kajogo, they fight. Even lions, even animals in the jungle fight because they want to dominate that particular kingdom. So male species, whether animals, as human beings, I don't know how it will work out. Maybe, just maybe, they will give a lot of civic education down there in that country so that it can sink in them. But I can just imagine that.
We're not ready for that.
Just
and it coming from a whole Department of Home Affairs.
I'm just imagining Ben, Kamuti, and I
Namato
sharing Jen. As in, just asking.
It's the 21st century.
Ben is our producer. Mato is another one. So who is the legit hubby? Or all of us have the same share?
Sindio. Ella.
Apana. All right.
But we definitely wait to just see how this will play out.
Yeah.
As we have heard, the men are already disappointed. So what's at one? If they will act out, if they will come with a counter proposal, we'll wait and see.
Yeah. Okay. Talk of that. Now, House Speaker Justin Muturi hold up for secret rituals to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta. Listen to this. Speaker not allowed to leave his house or see a woman and eats special diet for 8 days in seclusion before he's crowned at shrine in Murang'a. Now, Speaker Justin Muturi is currently in seclusion as part of the preparations for his crowning at the as the Mount Kenya spokesman this weekend. Now, the Speaker cannot leave his house or see a woman and eats a special diet for 8 days while in seclusion. He's allowed to only eat to see and meet certain people. Elders who are cleansed for the period. Men who can sire children are barred from meeting the initiate.
Allah.
The Speaker is said to be crowned in an elaborate ceremony at the historic Mukure wa Nyagathanga, right? I got it right. Shrine in Gaturi, Murang'a County. Yes.
When we say culture still has a firm grip.
Exactly.
In this 21st century, that is exactly what we mean.
And you see, those wazees have a say.
And so much power.
So much power. And it doesn't matter who you are. When it comes to culture and respecting, you know, the wazees, there are certain beliefs and there, you know, some powers that they have that if you go against, and that is why even this, you know, the elite, for example, Speaker, he will have to bend backwards and just accept when wazee speak. So that goes back to vijana wa siku hizi. Let me just put it. Mzee ananiambia, wewe unaniambia nini? These wazees are there for a purpose.
I have a question, Victor.
Right, sure. Go ahead.
He's going to be crowned as a spokesperson of Mount Kenya, right?
Right, yes.
Were members of Mount Kenya by birth and not registration like one, such as I, consulted?
Well, personally, I think this has been...
No, you don't even need to answer.
Okay.
And also, I think during the trending topics, there's a conversation we'd want to have. There's an issue of spiritualism that is gaining ground in Mount Kenya, where people are being forced to make blood sacrifices and women are forced to undergo circumcision so that they can actually be recognized as fully fledged members of Mount Kenya, especially the Agikuyu. We are going to be highlighting that on Thursday as we talk about trending topics, especially on issues and matters that touch on social development of Kenyans. I was just asking one question. I have no problem at all with the issues going, or rather the crowning of Justice Muturi there as the Speaker of Mount Kenya, spokesperson of Mount Kenya there. To some good news, Victor, before you take us down to Bonchari, where we're having a by-election, is that there's now hope for farmers, and we're talking about banana farmers as Koreans go bananas for the Kenyan fruit. Remember the avocado that found its market in China? Now we're having a market for green banana. One of chief officers of trade in Nyamira County says that there's no justification as to why farmers down there should not grab that opportunity to actually supply this particular fruit so that they can make a living. Victor.
All right. And on that note, we told you that and as expected, we have got 2 by-elections, actually 3 happening, but we are focusing on Bonchari as we speak right now. Just to give us a feel on what's happening on the ground, we are joined by our reporter, Achola, that is Simon Achola in Bonchari, to give us a feel. There you have it. Simon Achola, good morning, up and early. Just take us through what is happening in Bonchari right now, having in mind that the polling stations open at 6. What is the situation right now in Bonchari constituency in Kisii? Simon.
Quite a peaceful morning here in Bonchari constituency, that is in Kisii County, of course, that follows the drama that was actually witnessed yesterday night as, of course, various political players throwing words at each other over alleged electoral practices that was expected to happen today. Of course, as we speak right now, we've not seen any, but as I speak to you right now, the process began at around 6 a.m. in the morning as was planned. And as I speak to you, voters are streaming into polling stations across this constituency just to ensure that indeed they can actually participate in their constitutional right, which is, of course, casting the vote for the person they prefer to actually be their leader moving forward. Of course, this follows the death of the immediate former member of parliament for this constituency, John Oro, who actually passed on in Kisumu after a long illness. And as I speak to you right now, about 52,262 registered voters in this constituency will be going to about 103 polling stations across the constituency just to participate in this very important task. As I speak to you right now, we are at Suneka primary polling station, and the candidate who has actually cast her vote just now is Teresa Bitutu. Now, Teresa is vying on a new UDA ticket, and Teresa is actually the widow of the immediate former MP of this constituency. And as I speak to you right now, she's actually just addressing the media. And Victor, what we can actually report is that members of the public or the registered voters in this constituency have actually streamed in polling station, and the process is going on peacefully, albeit with small hiccups here and there. Where initially we were at Suneka Baraza Hall polling station, and what witnessed was that a number of registered voters who actually turned up had difficulties in terms of identifying their name actually being identified in the register, and also getting to the right position where they're actually supposed to vote. And the process has also been a little bit slower than expected, because usually in by-elections you don't see such queues, but of course we are witnessing that here. So what we'll do is that we will try as much as we can, Victor, so that then we get to see what Teresa Bitutu is actually saying, because Teresa has been here and since morning, and she has actually just cast her vote, and will be moving so that then we are in a position to get to hear what she will be saying. She's been addressing the media since morning, about 5 minutes ago when she came here, and just my cameraman is trying to get it right so that then we can actually move to where she is and we can get what she's
We do not have a problem, but we have a problem where the police are out
Okay, right. That is our reporter, Simon Achola, in Suneka Primary School. That is a polling station in Bonchari constituency, giving us an update on what's happening there during the by-election. And we are just going to connect with him shortly once we get that signal right. And he's rightly put it that the turnout is slightly slow, as not normally expected. And being that it's just a by-election, it's a matter of wait and see how it's going to pan out, because polling stations will run up to 5 p.m. In some instances, the IBC might decide to extend the voting time, and those are some of the live pictures from Bonchari constituency in Kisii County. All right. So, Simon, the issues of security were raised by certain leaders there. Probably you can just give us a feel on what's happening there, Simon. All right.
But this,
okay.
In this polling station, there's no harassment. One of my key campaigner was arrested. The wife was arrested at the night when they did not get the man in the house, and that is what is worrying me. But let me pray for the full day. I don't know what will happen during the day, but I pray God all will go well. Thank you.
I don't know, what's your message maybe to those who are...
The message to the people, let people be calm and do their votes in peace.
Okay.
And also, I'm requesting the government of Kenya to be kind, mostly to me, because I'm out because of my husband died. That's why I came out to defend the seat. And I don't see whether there is any mistake. When I'm in you, there's no problem. There's no problem. This government, I'm a Kenyan, so there's nothing wrong. Whenever I join to the government, I would still do anything, all the work which is being done in the constituency. Thanks.
Well, Victor, that is Teresa Bitutu, to the later Parliament Bonchari constituency, of course, just saying what has actually that you're actually raising when she was speaking about security, and she's saying that one of her security personnel has actually been arrested by the police, of course, over a number of reasons, but she's also putting it out to the government that she is the widow, of course, we know that, but if there's something that she can actually do, despite the fact that she's actually gunning for this ticket on a UDA ticket, that she will be more than willing to actually serve this government. But just going back to what you had asked about security. Indeed, security has actually been beefed up here in Bonchari constituency since yesterday. We have seen there's a heavy presence of police on the roads, and of course, especially the roads that are actually leading to polling stations. What has been happening is that members of the public who have actually participated in this exercise, that is voting, they're actually told to move as far as they can from the polling station. At Suneka Baraza Hall polling station, we've actually witnessed members of the public trying to eject one of the officials who was actually just standing by the gate, and of course they called for the support of the security agents there to try and eject that lady. Of course, they were raising concern about her presence at that very position, and they were asking why she was actually standing there after she had actually cast her vote. Of course, that happens in many by-elections, of course, elections in this country, where, of course, each and every person is suspicious of anyone actually standing next to polling station. Other than that, the process has actually been going on smoothly. We have not witnessed arrests this morning or electoral malpractices, as you might actually put it. But so far, so good. And of course, we'll be keeping a keen eye on exactly what will be happening here in Bonchari constituency. And of course, our viewers will be the first to get to know what is happening here on the ground. Victor.
Simon, in 1 minute before I let you go, what is the social distance like? Because IEB said that they are going to follow the health protocol to ensure that the COVID protocol is observed during these by-elections.
the health protocols that have actually been stipulated by the health ministry will remain just that on paper. But what my colleague can actually, if he can actually just pan on his left, so that then we can actually get to see the pictures, that you can actually see there's no much in terms of adherence to social distance here. We've seen a number of people coming here with masks, and a number of them, of course, are actually being the temperature is actually being taken just at the gate. If my colleague can actually just pan to that lady in the picture now, that lady is the one who's actually been taking temperatures of each and every person who's actually coming. You can see the thermogun, and then thereafter, of course, she is insisting that each and every person who is actually coming in should be putting on a mask. Must adhere to the social distance protocol. But of course, we know what is likely to happen in this situation. Yes, most of them are actually putting on their masks. Most of them have actually been, the temperatures have actually been taken, but that is as far as it goes in terms of adhering to health protocols that are actually supposed to check the spread of COVID-19 in the country.
All right, and again, one more question. It have to be one more. Simon, the issue of voter turnout, how is it like right now?
Victor, the history of by-elections in the country, usually the voter turnout is between, the lowest I remember was in when we had about 33% voter turnout. Of course, it ranges between 33 to around 67 or 70%, the highest, of course, being around 80. So we're expecting that it will be varying within that range. Since morning, we've seen a number of people streaming in polling stations, as I've said, and we saw at various polling stations, of course, people coming in, and there were a number of people who are actually still queuing, who are still on the queue, waiting to actually cast their vote. So then it means that a number of people have actually come out as expected, and Teresa Bitutu has also just called on members of the registered voters in this constituency to actually come out and participate in this very important task of actually choosing who will be the representative in the National Assembly moving forward. So we are expecting that indeed members of the public, or those who have actually been registered to participate in this exercise in this constituency, will be coming out to actually ensure that they participate in this vote. But so far, so good, and we're expecting that they will continue trickling in up until later in the day, when the polling stations are actually expected to close at around 5 p.m. in the evening.
All right, Simon, I think we can just leave at that particular point. I'm so sure you have got a very long day ahead of you, because you'll have to wait. You have to traverse the entire constituency and give us an update on what's happening there. And of course, until later in the day, sometimes you transnight until you get the last bit of the vote being counted and ultimately the winner announced by the IBC. Simon, please keep forth there, and Traverse will keep in touch with you later on to give us just what's happening on the ground. That is our reporter Simon Achola in Bonchari constituency, in particular Suneka Primary School, where is a voting polling station at that particular constituency. Okay, so let's take a break, but when we come back, the show will continue. People in politics, but before then we'll also be joined by Gladys Muigai, who is at Juja constituency, to also give us just a touch on what's happening in that particular constituency. We have you covered 360 degrees. Keep it right here. We'll be right back after this break.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye QuickBin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353, alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickBid ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Next on
the stone that the builder refused, yeah, shall be the head cornerstone.
Freedom, free the dumb. You should be free to speak, yeah. Say,
only child can say,
who can hear?
Who can help?
Where would I go? What would I do? Who would I be without a woman like you? Oh, a woman like you.
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake hizo miaka zote. Mtu ajui kujua kuandika noti tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli itasaidia.
Nini nakusumbua na nini?
Nauliza, ni bwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama Angel,
Don't you dare.
Haya, kwani ni vita? Nini wewe? Yaani wataka kumpiga? Huwezi mpika, mpike nini?
Welcome back. This is the right time that you'll be waiting for. It is 8:02. When that time clocks, it's now time for PP, People and Politics, where we discuss matters touching you, affect you as a citizen. And of course, we have got an array of issues that we are going to discuss today. Before we went on a break, we talked with our reporter, Simon Achola, who is in Bonchari constituency. And now, I don't know whether we should talk to our reporter, Gladys Mungai in Juja. All right, so we'll be connecting with Gladys Mungai later on in the program to also just give us a feel on what's happening in Juja constituency, where candidates are battling it out at this particular point. Every Tuesday, I'm always humbled to have gentlemen. It's Tuesday Men Affairs. It has nothing to do with men, but it's just men affairs, all right? Okay. All right, so let's start with the gentlemen. Joining me via Zoom, as always, I have Dr. David Masanga joining me via Zoom. Dr. good morning, and it's good to see you as always. We have got Joseph Simeha. Joseph seems to be still holed up in the village. Doctor will have to tell us why he's not make it back to the city, and yet the president gave us the freedom to come back to the town.
Thank you very much.
You know, Vijana call you Jose.
I just want to tell you that Simeka staying much in the village has caused us a very bad problem in Nairobi. This ruling would have not gone the way it is if Simeka was in Nairobi. So you better come back too. In London, masks are over. That's the good news from London. Masks are over there. They have vaccinated their people. Masks are over. People in the people in Africa who are saying, "Oh, I should not take these drugs." And they vaccinate 100 million people of their own, and then come to kill you.
Oh, okay. Doctor, you are taking over my show now. Dr. Masanga, you are now taking over my show.
No.
Okay.
No. I was only warning Mr. Semeka.
All right. Okay. All right. Doctor, before you take over my show, my producer will be on my neck. Let me just also introduce our guest. Also, we have got Dr. Rotich, who is also joining me live in studio, and we are going to have a detailed kind of a debate today. We have got so much to talk about, and All you can do is send your requests, your questions, and your comments, and of course we'll be sampling them during the show and at the tail end of this particular program. Gentlemen, it was a busy weekend, as we all know, but let's start with what's happening today. We have got 2 by-elections happening in the country. It comes at a very, very hard time for the country generally. And IBC is still adamant that, you know what, Kenyans must go ahead and do and exercise their democratic right. Perhaps let me just start with you, Dr. Rotich, who is in studio right now. What do you think we should expect in Bonchari constituency and Juja? In 1 minute as we start.
Buanaolo, I believe you know very well that they have had the most strenuous and controversial campaign time.
Yeah.
Some we witness things to do with intimidation, especially in those sides of Bonjari. We've been receiving complaints.
Yeah.
And also Chucha. But what we can only say for today is that let the best candidate wins.
Yes.
In both constituencies, that is Chucha and Bonjari. We are wishing them the best, a peaceful election.
Sure.
We want to see Kenyans coming up in numbers to vote for their leaders.
Yes.
And that is actually, ours is to wish them the best.
Absolutely. Let me just go back to Dr. Masanga. Dr. Masanga, elections are coming at a time that the country actually is facing a lot of, challenging moments, and IBC is also gearing up and saying, no, we are going to do our best. Perhaps just give a feel and what you think about the by-elections in Bonchari and Juja. Dr. Masanga, in 1 minute, please, as we start the show.
The best luck. I wish them good luck. That constituency has been held by the owner of the party, is called it a friend of mine who used to be a member of parliament, and that it had a different candidate, not ODM, not Jubilee, but I wish the best candidate the best luck in the elections.
Right. Okay. And Simeha, what's your take on that?
Thank you, Law, and good morning. First is just to agree with Matsanga, but on slightly differently detail.
Yes.
Different detail. That he's right that if our party leader Raila Odinga listens to me a little more and a few other people, and listens to some of his gatekeepers a little less, things would go slightly differently. But things will go well. So I know maybe we will talk about that later. On the by-election again, Olo, and I hope this doesn't surprise you, I haven't paid much to Bonchari. I've sort of been protesting. I've been holding my own quiet protest because of the choice of candidate of my party, ODM. Not that the man has done anything that has proven him when he was in the limelight of the news for having been accused of some very serious offenses. A couple of us in the party were just not happy. Of course, I wish my party well, and I would like it to get many, positions of MP, MCA, governor, and the presidency eventually. But the impression we give people in terms of the principles we stand for as a party, it's important that people watch us and see that we are living in accordance with those principles. And therefore, a couple of us in the party have, sort of staged a quiet protest by just not paying attention to Bonchari because of the candidate that the party picked at a time when he was facing very serious accusations. I wish all of them the best. May the best candidate win. Really, and this is wishing this for
all right. Okay. Simeha, we'll come back to you shortly. And let's now cross over to Juja and joined by Gladys Mungai to give us also a feel on what's happening there. There you have it. Gladys, good morning. Good to see you. It is a D-Day for the candidates right now, and I know things are happening on the ground. Perhaps you can just give us and bring us up to speed on what's happening in Juja constituency and particularly where you are. Gladys?
Good morning to you, Victor. It's indeed nice to see you too, although virtually. We are live
to you from Gashororo Primary School in Juja constituency, and we are here to follow up on the voting process of the Juja by-elections. And from what you can see behind me is a relatively low turnout exercise, as there are not so many members of the public coming out to cast their vote in favor of any of the 11th candidates who has expressed interest in this particular vote. You also remember that this Juja parliamentary by-election has occasioned by the passing on of the former member of parliament from this area, that is Francis Munywa Waititu, who passed on February this year owing to issues to do with brain cancer. And so so far 11 candidates have expressed interest in this particular seat. 6 of them are coming from political parties in the country. We have them ranging from the Jubilee Party, the Maendeleo Chap, as well as UDF and matters to do with Maendeleo Chap, and a couple of other political parties that have fielded candidates in this particular by-election. And one of them is also the New Democrats and the People Party of Kenya, as well as the National Liberal Party. 5 other candidates are independent candidates who have also expressed interest in succeeding that former particular member of parliament. Also to remember is that this particular constituency registered a high percentage of voter turnout, that is in the 2017 election, and the former MP garnered over 66,000 votes. That is 80% of the total voter turnout in this particular region in Kiambu County. So we've been moving around constituencies, and this is an exercise that started at 6 a.m. in the morning, but what we can reliably report is that the number of voters turning out to cast their vote is relatively low. The issue of COVID-19 measures has been adhered to, and people are continuing to cast their vote even as we move from one polling station to another. Also, just to mention is that the aspect of people coming out to vote, as well as the measures that have been adhered to in this particular region, are top-notch. And we've managed to speak to 2 people in the region who are voters in this particular region, and they're saying that the reason as to why some of them woke up as early as 6 a.m. to cast their vote when the polling station just opened is that they are looking into ensuring their candidate gets to win and clinch this particular seat. Victor.
Quick one before I let you go. What is the voter turnout as we speak? Sure. And having in mind that several candidates are also battling it out to have this particular seat at the end of the day, what's the voter turnout as we speak? It's 8 already. It's 8:15 thereabout. And how is the voter turnout like right now?
I would say as similar to other by-elections we've witnessed in the country, it's a replica of the same. There's not so much of the numbers to report home about. The queues are relatively, I would say they would be running dry from an hour from now in the event that people don't show up to vote. But I believe that more voters are going to show up. But what I can report is that there are not so many people turning up to vote, as it can be seen behind me. There are no long queues as witnessed in the main general elections, but that has also been a trend in a lot of by-elections we've witnessed in the country. But it's the mood is relatively peaceful. People are turning out to vote, to cast their vote, and from here we'll be moving to other constituencies and also seek to speak to members of the public as well as the returning officers in regards to this particular whole exercise, in regards to how it's being carried out and how they are ensuring that they facilitate each particular person eligible to cast their vote in this particular by-election. Also to mention, Victor, is that so far the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has conducted over 8 by-elections, the recent ones being the Matungu by-election, Kabuchai by-elections, and as well as Matungu by-election. And we have another one just coming up in a few months from now. That is the by-election for Kiamba constituency. That is the latest we have from Gashororo Primary School in Juja, and we'll be moving around other constituencies and reporting to you what we get on the ground on other polling stations. Also, to mention, matters to do with security has been beefed up. We've seen members of the police force just technically are trying to ensure that the process, there are no fracas that get to emerge during this voting exercise. You also understand that there are people who probably want to cause fracas during this particular exercise, and members of the police force are here at Gashororo, as well as other primary schools and other polling stations. We've moved around to ensure that the exercise moves on peacefully as has been planned. That is the latest. Victor, I'll now hand you over to you as we move to other polling stations and report to you what we find on the ground.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Gladys. We let you go. Please keep us updated on what's happening there, and as well, you have got a long day ahead of you. We wish you all the best, and to the people of Juja, go ahead and exercise your democratic right. It is your day, and elect the leader of your choice. Gladys, thank you. Let's talk later on in the program. Okay, so that is our reporter Gladys Mungai in Juja, also giving us a feel on what's happening there, saying that the security apparatus has also been deployed there pretty well. The turnout is also coming out pretty well as well. And the protocol in terms of COVID protocol have also been adhered to, and people are streaming in. Hand washing points have been put there, as well as sanitizers. And a lot is also going to be taking place in that particular constituency, with the candidates battling it out on who is going to carry that flag at the end of the day. As we always say, may the best person win. All right, let's come back to studio and get straight into our discussion of the day. Let me start with you, Simeha, today. A lot happened over the weekend, and we expected so much also to happen in the coming days, starting yesterday. What do you make of what happened over the weekend in your own perspective, briefly as we introduce the show? How did it happen to you? Did you expect whatever happened to this end?
You mean the court decisions, the court decision that was rendered on Thursday, and then, of course, the subsequent discussions arising from that decision. I, first of all, admit it was a bit of a surprise to me, but perhaps I shouldn't be surprised given the issues that, were raised by those who petitioned the court, and given how the BBI process has been handled. I think there's been a bit of panic in some people, a bit of anger, which in my opinion is unnecessary. Court has rendered its decision. I think it's important to reckon with the fact that this is not just a judicial or legal process, but this is largely a political process. Then the decision of the courts can be mitigated by going back to court, as the AG and the proponents of the BBI constitutional amendment bill are doing. But in my opinion, largely the response should be political. Managing, the outcomes of what has happened, putting the process back on track should be, in my opinion, much more a political approach than even the legal approach. I know the legal approach has to happen because some things have to, they have to push for them to be set aside, for the record to be set straight. There were a bit of contradictions here and there. But I think most important for me, Ono, is that some things have been missed in the approach, the political approach to this process. That BBI, as has been said many, many times, is not just about this constitutional amendment bill, has been missed by even the most visible proponents. That perhaps this is an opportunity to bring back the BBI project on track for exactly what it is, than to make continue with the narrow focus of constitutional amendment. That is legitimate, in my humble opinion, is legitimate. It ought to continue. But the rest of the BBI package, including policy proposals and recommendations, including administrative, including legislative, all those things need to come back on the table for the public to know comprehensively what is contained in the BBI proposal, because it's not limited to the very few and narrow issues that people are arguing over in constitutional, the proposed constitutional amendment. I give you just one, and in the interest of time to allow my colleagues also their space, I give you just one example. One of the things, on which the court dwelt, which is public participation law,
yes,
it is contained in the BBI policy recommendations. That we, although we have this in the Constitution, we don't have a national policy, neither do we have a national statute to regulations to guide public participation. Somehow the court has some standards that it used to enact that process. And I agree with the court. It made some nice observations in terms of the failure to carry out comprehensive civic education, etc., etc. And here I'm not making this contribution from a legal point of view. No, just from a governance point of view. But when you look at the BBI policy proposals, you find that one of the recommendations is about having a national enacting with principles, with the philosophy behind it, and with objectives behind it. So I should hope that this is an opportunity to bring back the entire BBI as a package and not just constitutional amendment.
All right. And just to bring you back to, before I come to you, Dr. Masanga, Dr. A lot happened over the weekend, and so much now is happening in the country as you speak, with the proponents trying to salvage the situation, the court ruling, and so forth. And so far, the AG was to file an appeal at the Court of Appeal. Okay, what do you make of that ruling that happened last week, briefly, before we get into the gist of the story of what's happening?
I think, Banawalo, the verdict that came out of the 5-bench charges,
yes,
never came to me as a surprise. What surprised me most is the fact that our judiciary is still independent in deliberation and in decision making.
Yes.
Because if you can remember, Olo, for the better part of the process of the PPI, it has been from the very beginning embroiled with a lot of controversies. And I have always, I'm in record saying, Wanaulo, that the best document that was ever to be, which was initiated by His Excellency the President and Right Honorable Raila Odinga, the very original vision of the document was very vital to this country, because it was eyeing to remove the intrigues, the problems that we've been encountering every electioneering year. But the program or the process was hijacked by politicians and remove it from the original vision and are taking it as a private or a party affair. And you came across, or we came across, a situation whereby even some groups of people were denied to give their views when it was a national document. I've been in record emphasizing that this thing was supposed to be open from the very beginning. Being a Kenyan document, it was supposed to accommodate the views of all the Kenyans. Towards the last deliberations of the PBI, you can remember, Wanaulo, that the charges, the people who have believed in this country that they have been marginalized for a long time, like those people living in arid lands. We have had so many groups who are who are actually having a lot of reservation about them being denied to air their views. And that was the beginning of our problems. It never started yesterday. What was ruled that it was unconstitutional, the constitutionality of the whole process was should have actually emerged in the way the whole process was managed by the committee that handled it. But you can see every stage of this process was stage managed in nature. There was no freedom of people to air their views. Some were denied completely to air their views. And then at some point, they said the time is over. We cannot accommodate any additional views anymore. Yet, of course, we know this is a public document. Some may argue that, of course, we have had this time, about 3 years, all over the line, receiving the views from the public.
Yes.
You know the nature of Kenyans, where they delay up to the last minute, they come up in a hurry to give their views. We know our habit. We were supposed to have been able to accommodate the views. So these discontenting voices are the ones who went to court.
And that's exactly what the court said, that part of the ruling was that there was no public participation. But even that, when that was happening, Daktari, many people thought that the court was not going to rule the way it ruled last week. And therefore now we are in this kind of a straitjacket between a rock and a hard place, okay? What do you think?
First of all, thank you very much to my colleagues in Nairobi. I want to start by asking questions and maybe teaching. Rotich, what is governance? What is a government? A government is people. I leave it there, Semeka can finish for you. Let me come to the real situation. My colleague, Dr. Rotich, comes from a county that opposed this BBI. So I'm not surprised with his sentiments. I'll keep them on board and tell you why. At the end of the day, BBI is needed. I agree with Semeka that BBI original motive is redemption, to bring about what ails Kenya, what kills Kenya, what makes Kenya ugly. Every 5 years, you kill each other. Blood flows in the rivers of this country because of an election, because of elections, because of a bad election, because of a stolen election, because of allegedly malpractices in the elections. Although, let's not divert. And if there is any judge on that panel who lives on planet Mars, there are 5 of them. I don't want to be very bad on this television, otherwise it will be closed. I have anger, but I will cool it down. There are 5 of them. Do they live on Mars or Venice? That Professor Ngugi live on Mars, or he lives in Kenya? He has lived in Kenya. Maybe he has lived in America for a long time, working for American agencies, not knowing that people have been dying in Kenya since 1992. People have been slaughtered. People in the rift have been running up and down. Brother and the brothers, when we are discussing this thing, let's be very honest. Point number 3, the question that I want to ask, is Raila Odinga Kenyan? Is Uhuru Kenyatta a Kenyan? I want to teach to tell me, maybe they are not Kenyans, you elected different people. Then I will go. My points are clear now. I'm not going to discuss much because the appeal has already been made and we are going to succeed. I want to tell you this. We who want peace in the region of East Africa will succeed.
Okay.
And I want to repeat this to Rotich. We and Semenya, we people who want peace in East Africa, we shall succeed.
All right, we shall succeed. We shall succeed. But then, Daktari, just a minute.
No, wait, let me finish my...
No. I'll come back to you. Let me just ask... Okay, we have enough time, Daktari. Just hold on. Simeka, you've heard what Daktari is saying, and you are on the receiving end right now. We need peace in this country. Simeka, what do you make of that, what is Dr. Masanga is saying right now? Simeka.
It is true that whereas the BBI process, was seen as an opportunity by many, maybe even designed as an opportunity by some to manage the succession, particularly presidential succession or succession with regards to state power, in my opinion, it still does not lose its value as an opportunity for this country, Kenya, to have a truly national conversation on what ails it with regards to management of societal affairs, governance, and political affairs. People may take as much offense as they want with it, but in my humble opinion, it still remains one of the available opportunities for us to have a national conversation. And the national conversation on the problems that bedevil the country is not limited to constitutional amendment. Constitutional amendment is part of it, because when you are creating a system, it's about policies, institutions, and processes, and those you have to anchor them in your law. When you are talking about managing society, you have to anchor whatever you agree in your social contract. So that's why I am one of the people who believe that it was and still remains necessary for us to amend our constitution in some areas in order to include some new agreements that we come up with as Kenyans.
Yes.
I do not even think, as some people are shouting, that the proponents of BBI are on the receiving end, as you put it, Olo. That is just one small hitch in the process, a court decision that has gone against the process. In my just casual assessment of that decision and listening to people who are experts where I am not, I believe the chances of an appeal succeeding are high. There are contradictions in that decision. I'll give you one. I don't think that we want to do a legal analysis on your program, but I'll just give you one. For example, when those judges argue that it is the BBI steering committee that that initiated the popular initiative, it is patently false. For sure, whether you go to court or not, the tenure of the steering committee and whatever they were doing ended the end of June, completely ended. Even if you hold that it was an illegal entity, be that as it may, but whatever it was doing ended. Nothing stops any Kenyan from taking over the output of such an institution, such an entity, even if it was illegal. But you are taking over what they generated and decide whatever you want to do with it, for as long as what you are doing with it is lawful. And proposing a constitutional amendment via popular initiative is a lawful act in this country. The people who are the promoters, Junet and Waweru, had nothing to do with the steering committee, were not members, were not officials, were not even members of the team of experts. So there's a distinct difference between the promoters of this bill and the steering committee. And there are many other things. As I say, we don't want to go into legal analysis on your program, and anyhow, we may not have the competence to do that. Something I just heard my colleague in the studio say, it's patently false observation from where I sit.
Yes, Dr. Rotich.
To say that some people were denied the opportunity to air their views. I personally know some prominent people who alleged that they were not allowed to air their views, but I happen to know that they were invited in writing and they declined. But in public, they came out to say they were denied opportunities to air their views. But I know it's on record, written record, that some of these people were invited. The steering committee was very, very open and invited anyone who wished to air their views to air their views. Unfortunately, COVID limited the manner in which people could air their views. That is nobody's making, at least not in Kenya. So I would suggest that when we make comments on this process and where it is, we make them from an informed point of view and we make fair comments. You can't deny, for example, politicians, any politician who sees a project that has potential to attract people's attention, to capture people's imagination, any politician will want to either associate with that project, if possible.
Okay. All right. We'll get back to Dr. Okay. All right, Smeka, we've lost you there for like a second or so. Let's come back to Dr. Rotich. There's a situation here now that it's going back to the Court of Appeal. What do you think are some of the chances of it sailing through?
I think, although in any civilized nation, we must always respect the main three organs of the government. We have the executive, we have the legislature, and we have the judiciary.
Yes.
And these organs have distinctive roles to play, which they are actually interdependent in nature. So the moment we deny the fact that the verdict of the courts should be respected, it is the first thing that we have to take. In fact, I was so much impressed by Right Honorable Raila Odinga when he said that as much as we don't, we don't agree with the verdict, but we must respect the deliberation of the courts. So the first thing that we need to do is first to appreciate that the verdict that was deliberated by the courts was official. When you name names like they were actually acting on their individual capacities, that is when we are losing the track. So in this case, the 21-point deliberations that was made by the 5 bench should be a tick list to us to go back to the drawing board, agree that there is somewhere that we lost. But what we can agree, all is not lost. But we must go to the drawing board again to see where we contravened the Constitution. Then we pick up from there. Another thing, although that we need to understand, is the issue of succession and the issue of politics in the whole process of the constitution making or amendment. In this case, if we delete or delink politics in the whole scenario, we shall come up with an all-inclusive constitution that will be appreciated by all. It was in record, Bwana Olo, even though these people don't want to agree sometime, when His Excellency, the Deputy President, actually came up with the idea that let us all contribute towards this document. Because when you talk about building bridges initiative, we cannot overemphasize of the problems that we do encounter after every electioneering year. That is what Kenyans appreciate. But when we are approaching the whole issue, are we inclusive in the whole process, in the whole management of the process of the Building Bridges initiative? Why are we lured to think that some people are more important than others when we are talking loudly that we are actually building up a bridge? A bridge when we are breaking another bridge. Okay. So the issue is we must go back to the drawing board. We must agree and accept the court verdict. Let us use whatever the findings of the court where we lost. We use that as our tick list. Then we start the process afresh. And the judiciary that we are now expecting, I mean the Court of Appeal. Yes. I don't see a lot of hope that they will come up with a different thing.
Why do you say so?
When you read the verdict of the rulings of the 5 judges, to me, in a layman thinking, it was very exhaustive, and every point that they made, they supported with the constitutional evidence. That we did this, but this was not done. Right. Yes, we did this was not done. So in the process of all this, instead of character assassinating the churches, instead of talking ill, instead of mentioning names, we should be thinking about ways of accommodating their views so that we can start up a process that is accommodative, that is all-inclusive, and we would expect the best out of it.
But as that may be, you all know that if you're not satisfied with the court ruling that we have got any other process, that's why the proponents want to
and that is why I'm saying a law. Yes. And that is the main reason why I'm saying let us respect the verdicts of the law, because they are our arbitrators. Yes, Those who are now taking up the matter to the Court of Appeal,
exactly,
they are saying we want to have more interpretation of the law.
Yes.
Which is actually something I agree fully.
All right.
So whichever way it will go after the appeal and court actually decide or make decision on that.
Yes.
We shall be abided by that.
Thank you. Let me just bring in Dr. Masanga here. Daktari, you've heard the two gentlemen speak, but let me ask you this particular question. We can end up with a referendum, even with a parliamentary initiative, as long as it affects the functions provided in Article 255 of the Constitution. But the question here is, can we have a parliamentary process that is going to help us to amend some of the provisions in the Constitution, in the BBI, without going for a referendum?
First of all, I want to correct some mistakes.
Go ahead.
Made by Dr. Rotich on this show.
Go ahead.
And this debate, I agree with Semeka that when we debate, let's debate from an informed point of view.
Good.
And next week, I will bring documents showing invitation letters that were sent from the a letter written to that boss to come and attend and give his views. He never came. Instead, he went to a political rally and started bashing Kenyatta. I am not going to take this. I am one of those people who has been crying for redemption because I created redemption in my country. The Luo community in my country were being butchered, killed by President Museveni. Samaka knows my record. I stood firm and we brought peace in northern Uganda. That's why I needed a redemption strategy. A bad Kenya creates bad things for Uganda. Two, in animal, Dr. Rotich talks about a credible court. Let's look at the 5 main bench. Sorry, a bench of 5 guys. 3 out of those guys, 3 judges,
yes,
are the judges that President Uhuru Kenyatta and the system of Kenya had question marks. They are among the 41 judges, and the 40 judges left, 1 died. They should have excused themselves from the panel because they went to rule with anger. Rotich, let's grow up. We don't rule these things with anger, please. The 3 judges are very clear. Professor Ngugi, Odunga, Chacha, they should not have been on that panel. And what will they do? I am also a mature man and educated in Africa. What did Professor Ngugi read, which I did not read? In Britain, not in America. I read it. Let me tell him off. The 3 men should have quit the bench and allowed other judges to be there because they have questionable background and they had a problem with the president. Point number 3, look at the way I like Rotich when he says, let's respect everybody. I like the Prime Minister when he says, respect the judges. But did the judges respect Uhuru Kenyatta? Did the judges respect President Uhuru Kenyatta? Yes or no? They didn't. They called him like a boy who grazes cows down in Nsoya River or Athi River. Oh, Uhuru Kenyatta, 13 times. Another point that I see is very clear. Surely, how can a court, the same court on the same status, nullify the ruling of another judge? They were not appealed court. The IEBC is winning the case going back to appeal. The IEBC got a ruling that you are legally constituted. How can people who claim to have read the professor, that professor writing what? What professor? What did he write? How did he go back to nullify a ruling of another judge on the same level? How? Is this judge? Is this a court? Finally, let me tell you, my dear brother, and this is coming, and Rotich will support me on this. Our courts in Africa have been invaded, captured by external enemies. It is not only in Kenya, Victor Law, that courts are now being harassed. In Malawi, in Zimbabwe now as we speak, there is an appeal in court, the same like the one in Kenya, which wants to remove the Chief Justice. So there is some external pressure that has come on our courts. Are these courts serving human beings, aliens? Are they from the Venice? Are these judges, I want to ask this as I conclude on this, are these judges aware that there is always violence if electoral commission is not well constituted? Are they aware? Are they Kenyans?
Okay, all right.
Are they really Kenyans?
All right.
Justice does not work in a vacuum. Justice works with people's interests. What are the people's interest elements? We are not interfering with their courts. Independence, yes. They can have independence. And
let's take a break. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Okay. Let's take a very short break. We'll be right back. We have got so much more to cover. Time flies. All right. Time flies. Okay. So when we come back, we'll be talking about some of the parliamentary provisions, whether that bill can go back to Parliament and they can have a non-contested referendum. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye QuickBin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353, alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickBin ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I really don't know what to say. You know, I just couldn't come up with a reason.
Amaya, I can provide you a reason. Yes, and I'm sure that Maximiliano will finally leave you alone after that.
Now I'm getting more convinced that it was you who's behind the flood in the warehouse and the harvest robbery at El Paraíso. I have no doubt that was you.
Constanza, dear, don't. You mustn't hurt yourself this way, don't. It's not worth it. Listen, the love that you have once shared with Max just doesn't exist anymore.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You're really gonna take me?
Yes, sir. You're afraid to take the bike you broke and fixed, huh?
What do you mean?
Hold on tight. I drive fast.
Hold you tight?
Chan-Chan can't answer the phone right now. She asked me to take her calls.
What? What's she doing? Why can't she answer herself?
Hello?
Hugo, where are you? Actually, I don't care.
If not back within 20 minutes, I will be out of here by tomorrow. You understand?
I'm dead tired.
You're so dead?
It's a figure of speech. I'm gonna marry your dad.
相见不如怀念。
And welcome back. Still continuing the show. This is People and Politics. My name is Victor Law, and you're watching KBC Channel 1. All right, later on, briefly, we are going to talk to our reporters. That is Simon Achola in Kisii, Bonchari constituency in particular, and Gladys Mungai, who is also in Juja, to give us a feel on what is happening down there in the constituencies where there are by-elections, at least to give us a feel on what is happening on the ground. Right now, let's come back to the debate and straight to Joseph Simeha. Simeha, right now as it is, some of the proponents of the BBI are trying to come up with Plan B, to go to Parliament as their only way of salvation. In this kind of situation, can Parliament work to save the BBI?
Although I don't think that one can narrow themselves to just one option, and I don't think the process has been so devastated that it needs some kind of salvation. I don't think so. I think it's a setback that can and will be navigated through legal processes, as is already happening, but I think majorly through a political approach. And the political approach could include what you are saying, to isolate, some of the provisions of that amendment bill that are not part of what is protected by Article 255, and take them through Parliament. But even those that are protected, that need a referendum, I personally still feel that it is possible, that they can still proceed, and I know that they will, and that is the intention, that beyond going to court, that they look at other option of reintroducing the recommendations that have been made for amending the Constitution. In fact, as I've told you, as a matter of fact, the ruling may perhaps be an opportunity to fix some of the things on which there just wasn't enough time. And I don't quite agree that the people to blame were the politicians. I think there were many other forces involved in this BBI process that sometimes delayed, that sometimes held it away from the people, that is from citizens, and so on and so forth. And I think that it's important that the court has sent some alarm into them that, if you can't pick and choose, you can't cherry pick, that we want it to go this way, that we want to hold on to it, and at the same time, we want the support of the public. So although I do think that, yes, it is possible that part of it could go through Parliament, but I also believe that it is possible that the promoters will come back with it and ensure that those issues that need to go all the way to a referendum go through a referendum. I know that that is possible.
Okay, fair enough. And Dr. Rotich, just also to ask you about that, if it happens to go to Parliament, it will therefore stop being a popular initiative. Don't you think so?
I think, as my brother has actually alluded, is that, how I see the court verdict or court ruling.
Yes.
It has come at such a time that it has humbled us. We are now able to sit together on equal footings, reason together as Kenyans, and now look at back and say, where did we go wrong? As I told you before, that the rulings of the 5-bench judges will give us an opportunity to look keenly on the position, on the points that they actually touched. And then from there, we can refocus and move on to draw up and come up with a document that will be all-inclusive and with content that Kenyans expect. In this case, Olo, you can remember that it had reached a level whereby any divergent view from any quarter, some people were no longer listening that. They used to believe that this is a document that they have more right than others to drive the way they want. But now we are humbled to the earth. The verdict has explained to us that we need to talk together as brothers and sisters, and that we have to draw up a document that belongs to all of us. So in this case, that was the origin of consensus. That was the origin of, can we discuss and we agree upon? And let me tell you, the same thing was mooted by former Vice President Musalia Mudavadi.
Yes.
When he said that we can agree on those non-controversial issues.
Yes.
So that we can move this document. As I said earlier, Wanolo, we cannot throw up this document, which has got so many good things. Just like that. We need to iron out, say what is controversial, what is it that we cannot agree, we put aside.
Yes.
Like the issues to do with the constituencies, issues to do with the ombudsman, issues to we can now correct that one very comfortably.
Right.
Because we are on the ground. So what is actually very key, Olo, it becomes so difficult when the whole process is backed on the 2022 general election. It becomes even more difficult because we want to meet that timeline. And if we have to meet that timeline, and we still believe that the courts will interpret and give us the verdict, you cannot dictate what is in the court of law. It may take a month, it may take 2 months. By that time, the time frame of constitution making before the beginning of the next campaign will have been expired.
Yes.
So in this case, I think the best way out maybe is parliament, but there are things that parliament cannot pass. Like now changing the structure of the government, the issues to do with the position of the prime minister and the deputies. It may not be done. That one requires a referendum. So in this case, what can be passed through the National Assembly, it can be done. What cannot be done, we can take that one to referendum.
Absolutely. Dr. Masanga, my question here is, do you think President Uhuru Kenyatta and Honorable Raila Odinga at this particular point can manage to lose the battle on BBI? Dr. Masanga?
No. They will not lose the battle at all. Can I repeat again? No. And let me teach, no. Whoever is listening, they cannot leave a country to go down to the dogs. They cannot leave the country to go down to violence. Let those who think, who are celebrating, and let people know that God belongs to all of us. There's no special way that you say, God is mine. Nowhere. This is a battle of do or die. East or West. Semeka, Kenya cannot hold an election without reforms. That one, and I want Oro and my brother Rotich and others to put it in your mind. You cannot hold a free and a fair election in Kenya without reforms that the BBI have talked about. If you want to be democratic, also allow democracy. Also, a court is not in a vacuum. A court does not rule. Justice does not sleep in air like a COVID-19. Justice sleeps around people, around the areas that affect the local citizens. You cannot tell people that deny them the money going to the counties because you are a court. You tell them that their project, they wanted 35% of the money. You tell them you are not going to get it because you are independent, you are a court. Impossible. The only thing and the only route forward, is Kenya has to do a redemption strategy through bring a united Kenya. President Uhuru Kenyatta to bring a united, prosperous Kenya, give elections. And by the way, Victor, let me school my land friends here. You know, as much as people are praying to God and are celebrating,
yes,
you have given Uhuru Kenyatta even more more grounds. Semeka, are you smelling something that I am also smelling? You have given President Uhuru Kenyatta more grounds to say, hello, you the court, you told me this cannot be done. This cannot be done. This cannot be done.
Okay,
Dr.
Masanga, let me hold you briefly. Regional Commissioner of Kisii County is speaking in Bonchari right now. Let's just go straight to Kisii and listening on what the Regional Commissioner is talking about right now.
Wanasiasa wamekuwa wakilalamika kwamba kidogo ni kama mnawatisha haswa kutoka kwa chama pinzani cha ODM na wengine. Pengine tu tuelezee kama tunacheza kama serikali ama tunaegemea upande wowote.
Sisi kama National Police Service hakuna namna, according to our standing orders we are neutral. Either kama ni upande hii ama ni upande gani, yote ni yetu. Sisi National Police Service hatuna ubaguzi hata moja.
Any cases of violence reported so far?
So far hakuna. We are so many. We have deployed so many officers. Ndio unaona sasa hakuna any violence hata kidogo. Mumetosheka. Madam.
Thank you. Yes.
Tuko hapa kuweka amani.
That's good. Let's address that.
Yes.
Can you give your views also? Well, let's address. Thank you very much.
You are happy now?
I'm happy now.
Na ningetaka kama madam uko na facts. Kama uko na facts. Yes. Kama uko na facts madam ni mzuri.
Niko na facts mkubwa.
Tafadhali kaniwa.
Hata picha ndio hii nimepiga.
Twende pamoja.
Kama ameshikwa.
No, just give us.
Yes. A gentleman has been bribing voters in this polling station from 5 a.m. 5 a.m. Amekuwa akionekana nje. Alipoingia ndani nimeketi hapa nikamwangalia mara 2-3 nikashughulika ni nini nafanyika. Kusonga karibu ananidanganya anasaidia mzee kupiga kura. Anasaidia mzee anataka kwenda mbele ya line kupiga kura. Kamuza na wewe ni agent wa chama gani? Na wapi badge yako? Hana badge. Na nimetoa kwa mfuko campaign material ya Mheshimiwa Opore, Jubilee candidate. Na mzee ndio huyu tumemshika.
Ako wapi mzee? Ako wapi?
Sasa hiyo ofisa utauliza watu wako yuko wapi?
Ningetaka hata nione hiyo ofisa.
Kwa sababu niko na campaign material ya Mheshimiwa Opore. Iko hapa.
Haya, hiyo ina shida. Nani
tumetoa kwa mfuko yake.
Nani amekamata?
Ametoroka ameenda. Mimi naitwa Mheshimiwa Nerea Okech natoka Homa Bay County. Na mimi ni agent wa ODM, nimetumwa na baba kuja kuchunga kura ya ODM. Hata kama kura ni 3, ni 2, zihesabiwe na tupewe kura zetu.
Sawa.
Ndio.
Sawa. Ni sawa.
Sawa mkubwa.
Umetocheka.
Asante.
So you are a presiding officer?
I'm an agent of ODM party.
Sawa.
Nimetumwa na baba.
Sawa, thank you.
All right. Those are live pictures from Bonchari with the regional commissioner there in Kisii addressing matter security. And just that lady who's spoken is called Nerea Okech, who is an ODM agent, alleging that she apparently found somebody bribing, allegedly bribing voters at the polling station, and now raising a lot of concern. And we just hope that this is not going to spiral into something different at the end of the day. Let residents of Bonchari exercise their democratic right in a peaceful manner. This is just a by-election. It's not a matter of life and death. So that is Nerea Okech, or ODM agent overseeing that particular show. All right. Dr. Rotich, let me just put it this way. As it is right now, it was a give and take document, which means it's somehow going to be a negotiated kind of document, all right? So are we going to go route direction? Because the Honorable Deputy President has been speaking about a non-contested referendum.
I think, although, when we are talking and making a reference of constitutional making,
yes,
it should not so much be backed on individuals, because it is a document that will govern this country, all of us included. So we cannot bring in personalities when it comes to the constitutional making. That is why we are talking about Wanjiku on the ground. We are talking about Tabase on the ground. I mean, This is actually a constitution that touches on every life, irrespective of their, the social status. So, as per what you ask about the deputy president, I believe all this time, there is no day that he has ever denied that he doesn't want the constitution amendment. He has never added anything. And even in his making, he has been emphasizing that let us focus on more prioritized issues, like the economic depression that our nation is facing. You talk about the health crisis, the issue of corona pandemic. And he has not come out openly and said this is what we don't want. So in his insinuating that he is opposed to it, I think that amounts to politics. But let me tell you, Olo, there are a number of things that it raised some eyebrows.
Yes.
Especially, you can remember during the launching of the PBI, he touched on some issues that he felt it should be included in the PBI. And those were his reservations, that if we do this, it will be like this. If we don't do Kenyans were listening. And I could see that those were his personal view about the process or what was to be included and not included in the PBI. And there are so many other Kenyans. Talk about pastoralists, talk about religious organizations, talk about all sorts of groups that we have in this country. So the only way we can absolve ourselves from the problem that we are facing now, our solution will not be from the courts. Our solutions will be the Kenyans agreeing and accepting one another as they are, and come to a consensus and say, this is the way out to go. And delink politics in the whole process. Because why I'm saying this, it is so unfortunate that we are doing these changes at the time when we are about to do our election. So you can delink so much politics out of the whole process. It has become a political process because of the nature of the timing itself. So in this case, I think all is not lost, Bwana. What Kenyans should do now, well, we must agree that we have lost somewhere. We must agree that there must have been some unconstitutionality in the whole process that was actually committed. Of course, that one stands to be interpreted by the Court of Appeal. I'm not saying that was all wrong, because we are yet to get the verdict of the Court of Appeal. But in this case, the surest way to have a breakthrough in this process is to open it up, correct it, and agree upon or have that kind of consensus so that we can come up and move with a document that we shall all be in agreement. And I want to assure you all, even as much as we are talking about some who are going to benefit politically, I want to tell you, there will be no, among the presidential contestants, there will be no, there is no single aspirant who would not want to have a coalition if he has to succeed. In this case, what PBI actually provided is a bigger or a wider avenue that will accommodate even all the membership of a particular party. So in this case, when you say it was to safeguard the interest of a particular individual, I can tell you for sure that...
All right, Doctor, let me just cut you short right there.
No,
let's
thank you.
All right, let's cross over to our reporter Simon Achola, who is in Kisii, to just bring us up to speed on what's happening there on the ground. Simon, just a while ago, we saw Regional Commissioner Kisii speaking on some matters, as well as a lady called Nereo Ketch, ODM agent, claiming that there are some cases of voter bribery. Would you just confirm to us what is happening to us, if it's true or they're just allegations, Simon?
Yes, you are right, Victor. When we were just coming, of course, I'll just start by saying where we are. We are actually at Nyamiogo Primary School. That is a polling station here in Bunchari constituency. And this is where the Jubilee candidate, Zebedeo Oporo, is actually casting his vote. He's already cast his vote and actually left. And while we were coming in, the ODM agent, Nereo Kesh, was just lamenting of the fact that she says that being bribed and people engaging in electoral malpractices. Of course, those allegations have been confirmed by the regional police commander, Mr. Karanja, who has said that a number of people have actually been arrested with money trying to bribe voters. And of course, saying that they are doing everything within their means as police officers to ensure that security is maintained in the constituency as the voting exercise continues. But also says that far from what has been perpetuated, that the police are actually leaning on the Jubilee side. He says that they are non-partisan, they're meant to be non-partisan, and ensure that indeed this exercise is held in a more peaceful manner and within the law. He says that the heavy presence in the constituency is just to ensure that indeed people abide by the law, and he says they will continue to ensure that everything is done within the electoral laws. And just going back to what Nerea was saying, she says that she has witnessed and has pictures of people actually bribing voters here who are actually coming in, and she was actually calling on the police to ensure that they arrest those who are actually involved in the bribing exercise. And of course that has been confirmed, as I said, by Mr. Karanja, and Mr. Karanja has said that they will continue actually to ensure that they arrest those who are actually involved in voter malpractices. The other thing that we have managed to actually to get from Zebediah Oporo, who actually spoke just after Nerea Okeche had actually put forward her concern, was the fact that she is happy with the exercise, but also calling into question the speed with which electoral officials here are actually processing the people who are actually going to vote and actually coming out. They say that they are taking a little bit longer than expected. Of course, that might in the long run discourage those who actually want to come and participate in this exercise, and probably that could be the reason as to why you're seeing such queues, because usually in by-elections the queues are very small, but when you see such queues, then there is a possibility that of course the process might not be going as smoothly as expected, but nonetheless the process is going on. The police says that they've not seen or arrested people in terms of engaging in violent activities other than the voter malpractices that we've actually seen. And Zebediah Oporo actually confirming when the question was actually posed to him if indeed the government is helping him. He did post a question to journalists and asked that if indeed he is a candidate of the ruling party, why then would the government not actually support him? And of course we didn't have an answer to that. So we are expecting exercise to continue peacefully as we go on. And of course Victor, just before I let you in, we will be informing our listeners and viewers exactly what is happening. Back to you, Victor.
Simon, briefly, what is the mood like now that that allegation of voter bribery has now come up? What is the mood like on the ground as we speak? Has anyone been arrested yet? Briefly.
The mood remains largely peaceful. As I've said, we are still witnessing people actually coming to polling stations and participating in this very important exercise. As I've said also, Mr. Karanja has actually confirmed that a number of people have actually been arrested. He didn't give us a number. He said that he'll actually be giving us a number later in the day, but he says a number of people have actually been arrested, and he says that money has also been confiscated from the people who've actually been arrested, and he says that that money might have been meant to actually bribe voters who are actually coming to cast their votes in these polling stations.
Okay. And Simon, we talked about coronavirus and health protocol being followed, and you've just given us a shot there. Perhaps your cameraman can also just pan briefly. How is that being upheld in terms of following the protocol? People are squeezed. In fact, there is no space in between voters, literally.
Yeah, Victor, you're right. It means a challenge, especially to the electoral officials, to ensure that indeed those who are coming to participate in this exercise actually adhere to the set COVID-19 health protocols. As you can see actually on the line, they're actually squeezed very close to each other. Some of them are not putting on their mask, and we are expecting that probably they'll be doing so. But as I said earlier in my earlier link, I had said that there is a person who's actually stationed right at the entry of this polling station who is actually ensuring that temperatures of each and every person who's actually coming in is actually taken, and also they're also trying to ensure that each and every person who's actually coming in is actually putting on a mask and also maintaining that social distance. But of course, especially when there's that scuffle as witnessed when you're coming in, those social distancing and other health protocols are actually thrown to the wind, and that is exactly what is happening. And of course, you can actually see the pictures. People are actually squeezed, and we are hoping that probably as we go on in the day, of course, people will actually start adhering to those health protocols, or alternatively, then security agents and IEBC officials who are actually present on in most of these polling stations, in all polling stations, will actually start ensuring set health protocols.
Simon, good job. Please keep us updated on what's happening on the ground, and if you can just do a follow-up on who have been arrested, how many of them, and what are some of the steps that the police is going to take in as far as that election and voter bribery allegations is concerned. Simon Achola from Kisii Bonchari constituency saying thank you so much. We'll talk later on during this program. Good job. Okay. Continue the show. You've seen what's happening there, Daktari, and let me just bring in Smeha before you come back. I come back to you. I know I cut you short, but let me just bring in Smeha. Smeha, the question of how the parliament timeline is going to be affected should they go the parliamentary way. And now some of the promoters of the BBI are mulling that kind of route to go the parliamentary way. Do you think it will affect the parliamentary timeline ahead of the 2022 general election if it happens to go that way?
Thank you, Victor. I'm not sure that I understand what you mean by parliamentary timeline, but supposing, and this is a big if, supposing the patrons, promoters, supporters, and so on of the BBI process decide to use Parliament to see through the enactment, of some of those constitutional amendment provisions that don't require a referendum. I am sure they could do that in a week or 2 weeks. If history of this process is anything to go by, if you've been observing what's been happening, and especially given the power politics in this country, if they wanted to go that way, I am sure they could do that in a week or two, and it could be completely done with whatever they want to pass through Parliament. However, remember, what we've kept telling each other on these shows, that there are provisions that would still require a referendum. Those provisions, whichever way you go, even if you go through the parliamentary route, and bring the bill to the president for assent, the moment he notices that it has those provisions, he has then to commit that bill to the IEBC for them to carry out a referendum. Maybe the thing that people are talking a lot about the provision is this thing of 70 constituencies, 70 additional constituencies, because there's a time limit between when you can do a delimitation and the next general election. That if it has to be at least 12 years, they have to be in place. If they're not, then you cannot use them for the purposes of the next general election. For me, my position is, this is an opportunity for the team to go back to what many people asked, and many people asked for the fairness of Kenya's electoral system.
Yes.
The fairness of Kenya's electoral system does not necessarily mean creation of 70 additional constituencies in some particular areas. The way out could be, let us adopt a different electoral system, not just this one of first past the post. We could adopt a mixed member proportional representation system where the additional constituencies are not physical constituencies, but additional seats given to parties and regions that are underrepresented on the basis of proportional representation, based on the number of votes that each party may get at the next election, and also based on many other factors like population in the counties and so on and so forth. So, there are ways out. It shouldn't sound like this is devastating, and as some people say, it has killed this process, that it cannot continue. No. I can see there are so many ways out, and I totally believe it's going to continue. What I am completely reluctant to do is to cast aspersions on the judges, to impute improper motive, to get upset with them and insult them. I agree with the council that they have done their job. We may not like what they've done, but they've done their job. Let us then move on to what we have as recourse. whether it's Court of Appeal or these political processes that we are discussing on this show. So there are many options out of this setback.
Okay. Let me bring in Dr. Masanga in this case now. Dr. Masanga, some would argue that when the judges were making their determination, the issue of popular initiative and the issue of bringing people in this kind of judgment was not factored in. Do you really think that judges did not take a look at the Wanjiku down there before making a determination on this case?
Thank you very much, Victor.
Yes.
And the panel. Who is Wanjiku? Who is Wanjiku? Can anybody on the panel tell me? If Dr. Rotich is not Kamau, is Rotich not Kamau or Rotich? Rotich is Rotich can initiate a bid. It doesn't matter the status. Constitutionally, Yamen, let's go back to school. Constitutionally, Mr. Sameka can mount a bill. It doesn't matter the status. Who is Wanjiku? Wanjiku is you. Wanjiku is everybody. Rotich is there is no middle class in Africa. You want me to tell you that there is no middle class in Kenya and Uganda? I don't want to use the word here. I will tell you when offline. There is no middle class. There is a thinking class in Africa. Those who steal from the poor and the government. There is no middle class. So who is Wanjiku here? Wanjiku, every time people hide themselves in Wanjiku. Even the judges now have hidden themselves in Wanjiku. It is Wanjiku. Wanjiku is also Raila Odinga. Wanjiku is also Uhuru Kenyatta. Wanjiku is Semeka. Wanjiku is Rotich. Wanjiku is Victor Olo. You have a right in your constitution. You have a right. You cannot prosecute this constitutional change using stones. You use money. Where will Wanjiku get money to print the books? Jermaine, let's be honest. Let's be honest for once. I was making my point here, Victor.
Yes.
That do you know what? You have given Uhuru. If Uhuru was hungry for power, you people would have a runner for your money. You know, if I were Uhuru, I would just move with the pandemic that we see here now, killing people in India, because of, have you seen what has happened in Kisina? Your reporter is on record telling us people are not keeping social distance. You know that. I have seen it with my eyes, so don't interpret it for me. The guys are not keeping social distance. COVID-19 is here. And you are telling me you allow this type of election, people to crowd the next year. If I were Uhuru, I would look at all he has. By the way, people who are clapping and celebrating, you want to know that this ruling has brought grace to His Excellency the President. He can sit, relax, and tell the Kenyans, I am reorganizing this country for a good election. The constituency is a sticking point, isn't it? 12 months. Let Chebukati start cutting these constituencies. I will call an election. Victor Road don't rule that out. The Parliament of Kenya can extend the limit, can extend the date of an election. Don't tell me it will not. Rotich will agree with me. Semeka can agree with me. How many of these MPs are ready to go away? They will even vote with their feet to extend the date of elections to 2023 in February for 6 months, to give Uhuru and the Electoral Commission to prepare a free and a fair election. It is constitutional. The president can invoke in a time of crisis, presidential executive powers come to parliament and tell them, I don't want to kill you like Modi. Modi in India killed his people, went for elections, went for political rallies in the midst of a coronavirus. Look at what it is doing in the River Ganges. Look at what is going on in India. And look at what is going on in Bochari. People are on back, are carrying each other on their backs, on each other's back. Rotich, you think this is, you mean human beings we don't learn?
Yes.
Modi of India destroyed his country. His country had no cases, huge cases of corona. He accepted an election.
All right, Dr.
People went and played politics. Look at what is happening.
Okay, before my producer destroys my job as well, Dr. Before Dr. Okay, Dr. Masanga, okay, mute that mic because we have to pay bills. Before I destroy my job as well, we have to go on a commercial break. Dr. will be right back with you. Simeka will be right back with you. Simeka, you've been accused and you have to answer the questions, and you, Dr. Rotich, you've also been accused by Dr. Masanga. We are going to take a very short break before I also destroy my job, okay? Let's take a break. We'll be right back after this break, all right? Stick around.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye QuickBin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353, alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickBin ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I really don't know what to say. You know, I just couldn't come up with a reason.
Amaya, I can provide you a reason. Yes, and I'm sure that Maximiliano will finally leave you alone after that.
Now I'm getting more convinced that it was you who's behind the flood in the warehouse and the harvest robbery at El Paraíso. I have no doubt that was you.
Constanza, dear, don't. You mustn't hurt yourself this way, don't. It's not worth it. Listen, the love that you have once shared with Max just doesn't exist anymore.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You're really gonna take me?
Yes, sir. You're afraid to take the bike you broke and fixed, huh?
What do you mean?
Huh. Hold on tight. I drive fast.
Hold you tight?
Chan can't answer the phone right now. She asked me to take her calls.
What? What's she doing? Why can't she answer herself?
Hello?
Hugo, where are you? Actually, I don't care. If not back within 20 minutes, I would be out of here by tomorrow. You understand?
I'm dead tired.
You're so dead?
It's a figure of speech. I'm gonna marry your dad.
Welcome back. Today is an extension of the People and Politics because of what's happening across the country. We have got a Juja by-election, of which we'll be joining our reporter Gladys Mungai shortly. Simon Achola is also based in Kisii, who is also giving us an update of what's happening down there, just to tell you what's happening and, of course, how it's going to pan out. Dr. Rotich, before we took a break, Dr. Masanga made some strong and scathing attack on you. Said that that the decision of the court was a disrespect to the president.
I think, Mr. Olo, let me remind my senior, Dr. Musangi, that the verdict of the court was not in any way a show of disrespect to the head of state. If anything, the head of state, who is His Excellency the President, right, is the custodian of our Constitution. If there was any deliberation that was done and a verdict that was passed in the courts, it is another arm of the government that assists the executive. So his insinuation that he was, the verdict of the court was in a way disrespecting the president, I think that is in part test. Why am I saying so, Mr. Olo? You look at it this way. If we look at everything positively, Bwana Olo, and say what happens at the legislature, the deliberation that the parliament came about was not in any ways against any particular person. And so to the judiciary, whatever they came up with, it was not in any way disrespecting another body of the government or the organ of the government. So that is where we have had our politics bad. Because whatever the judiciary is doing, it is actually upholding the law. Upholding the law means they are directing us to work and to, they were actually against the constitution-making process that the law was not followed. And in his oath, His Excellency the President took an oath to protect and uphold the constitution of the land. If it was a correction of the process, is that in any way a disrespect to the head of state? I think we need to change our approach of these things. I look at it in a very positive way, that what the courts actually came up with as a helping hand, as another independent arm of the government,
yes,
goes a long way in strengthening the presidency. If we look at it in a positive way. Right. But in a political way, we see like there was a contest. There is no contest. These are the arms of government and of the same government, which is headed by His Excellency the President. Okay. So is our constitution, he's the custodian of our constitution, and we have to reflect him in his position as rightfully placed.
All right. Simeha, at this particular point, you may need to imagine that it's a very busy moment for the AG and his legal team, even as they prepare to have that appeal lodged at the Court of Appeal.
Yes, I can imagine. But let me just make this comment, Mr. Law, that first of all, a lot of people are speaking as if when the judges of the High Court of Kenya make a decision, it is the final decision, cast in stone, the truth, nothing but the truth. That is not true. Judges make mistakes. In fact, every so often, judges are told off by their seniors that they completely misapplied the law, they misinterpreted the Constitution, and so on and so forth. So as a couple of us have said on this show, let us wait and see what subsequent courts of higher jurisdictions will say about this verdict or these decisions. And it's because of that judges make mistakes that you've asked me that question, on Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya and other lawyers of parties that are either interested or party to what is going on. It is because of the belief that, rightly or wrongly, whatever one thinks, that these judges have made a mistake, misapplied the law, misinterpreted the Constitution, and therefore this has to be appealed. Some people people questioned why in general, and that government was behind this. But then, although look at it this way, when you are preparing a constitutional amendment initiative as a private citizen, by the time it gets to the IEBC and the IEBC commits it to county assemblies, it is no longer a private affair. The government of the Republic of Kenya has a stake in it because now you begin to spend public resources. The government has a stake in it. And that's why the Attorney General would be expected naturally to defend the government's stake in whatever is being contested. And then secondly, for those who have linked this process and think the AG and other people should not be appealing, those who have linked it to what happened earlier, with regards to the law, I think it's important to understand where an initiative to amend the Constitution officially begins, when it's a popular initiative. You shouldn't legally, the task force, the steering committee, and many other things that happened before, to the official bill or general suggestion to amend the Constitution. Because that begins when someone takes that suggestion or his or her bill and at least 1 million signatures to the IEBC. I think that is the point from which you then begin to judge. And when you look at that point going forward and read these decisions of the court, you see why the Attorney General of the Republic would be concerned and should be concerned. You will see why the lawyers of the promoters of this initiative would be concerned and should be concerned that this initiative should not be derailed by being linked to many other processes that happened prior to it, even though they are not legally linked. Finally, in terms of content, what goes into our Constitution, information, as I've said here to you earlier, in earlier editions of this show, there are things in that bill that I personally didn't agree with. I know there are things in that bill that people in my party, ODM, didn't agree with. But because this is a negotiated process, it was still going. And I'm sure there are things that people in Jubilee didn't agree with and in other parties. But it was still going forward. Contents of constitutional amendments or contents of constitutions are not for judges or courts to decide. Those are for citizens of a republic to decide. If judges want to participate, they participate as citizens of the nation. I know they can't participate in the discussions on what we should amend and what we cannot amend. That is not for courts to decide. It is for us, even if we give ourselves a stupid amendment, it's really for citizens to decide whether they accept that stupid amendment or not.
Okay, all right. I ask a question on whether you think it's been a busy moment for the AG and his legal team. Probably might need to answer it in your next round for the question, but let me also bring it to Dr. Masanga, even as he also answers that. Dr. Masanga, the AG probably is also busy right now because he must have a watertight case against the High Court ruling. Don't you think so?
He has, yes. The case is very clear.
Yes.
It's a very clear case, Victor Oro and the panel and Mr. Rotich. Mr. Rotich says they did not belittle the president. They did belittle the president. They called him Uhuru Kenyatta 13 times. Does he graze your cows? Does Uhuru Kenyatta graze cows in the River Nzoia or at the river? Why did you elect him as a president? His Excellency, the president of who saw you? Whom did you swear to? The judges saw under president to protect the president. Then you belittle him, Uhuru Kenyatta, 13 times. Like he's your acquaintance on the streets where you do your Open Society Foundation operations of George Soros. You think we who are friends of the president are happy?
Okay, what's your point, Daktari?
No, you call him Raya, huyo Uhuru Kenyatta.
Okay, what's your point? What's the point, Daktari?
Victor Ro, translate Uhuru Kenyatta. Translate it in Swahili. And you see how it, by the time
point
you
made,
speak
point made, Daktari. What is your point? The question is, the AG's office right now must be...
I wanted to disagree with Rotich when he said there was nobody who believed on the president.
Okay,
they did.
Yes, all right.
2, the Attorney General has a tight program, has a case. Even, you remember, they accused the IEBC. It has a case, yet there were 2 judges who had ruled on IEBC. You can see that case of the 5 judges falling down in pieces. All right? You are a judge of the High Court. You have no right to underrate any ruling of your fellow judge on the same level and say, I don't agree with what Mr. Mativo said in the ruling against IEBC, in favor of IEBC. Then discuss Mativo's case by consolidating it in your case. Have you ever seen this? What was that recommendation on IEBC that it was not constituted when Mativo had ruled that the IEBC can conduct elections with a quorum of 3? Muniambie. Maybe I'm speaking too much English. Muniambie sasa. Don't you see kasoro hapo? Iko kasoro. The appeal chamber, Victor, it will corrupt. Because these judges took a lot of powers and took a lot of anger. Finally, Victor, give me 1 minute because I'm going for another meeting. Let me tell you, there are serious rule of law of natural justice that when I am related to Jamaica, and Jamaica, or I have quarreled with Jamaica somewhere,
all right,
on a business deal, and unfortunately I don't do deals with Jamaica because Jamaica is not a businessman. He's a senior
thank you.
Farmer.
Daktari, let me just cut you short briefly, and all right, let me just cut you short and go to our reporter Gladys Mungai. Okay, okay, thank you, Daktari. Let's just talk to our reporter Gladys Mungai, who is in Juja right now, also to give us an update on what's happening in that particular constituency. I'm so sure you'd also want to follow on what's happening. Gladys, you are in a different location right now. Give us an update on what's happening on the ground in Juja constituency, even as the voting process continues. Gladys.
We are at JKUAT campus, and this polling station is known as Jomo Kenyatta. This particular polling station has 12 polling station within one, and what is currently happening, I want to just take our viewers quickly through the process. And on my right, we have 2 officers who, when you just arrive here, they are in charge of just getting to understand your name as well as take your temperatures. You can see temperature gadgets on their hands. So when you just come here, that is the first step, to just take your temperatures. That is in regards to COVID-19 measures. And now to just move inside the polling station. And you remember that this particular area in Juja has over 100,000 voters. In the 2017 general election, we had over 114,000 people who are eligible to cast their votes, and we had over 91,000 casting their votes. 80% of that is 66,000 casted their votes in favor of the former MP, that is Francis Munyo Waititu, and many used to call him Wakape in the region. I'm now just entering one of the streams here at the polling station to just show you what is currently happening in this particular area. So when you just come here, this is the first stage where this particular clerk is charged with the responsibility of taking care of your documents, and also I can see some sanitizer at his desk. So that means before anything is done, you're sanitized to ensure that the area, all the clerks as well as voters in the region adhere to COVID-19 guidelines. Moving around, I want to believe these are also members of the voting exercise panel who are supposed to oversee how each of the members of the public is guided in matters of how they cast their vote, as well as some waiting to cast their vote. I believe over the 10 candidates who are seeking to succeed Francis Munywa Waititu have their agents in here, and that is to ensure that all their things are taken care of. You'll then be directed to my extreme end on my right, where there are 2 polling booths. That's where you're supposed to choose whoever the candidate you are casting your vote in favor, and then cast your ballot in this ballot box in favor of your candidate. And as we move around to just show you how this by-election is being done, you can see a lot of gadgets on this particular table, as well as the voter register, where your name is supposed to be cross-checked across this particular register to indeed ensure that you are a voter in this particular polling station, and that is in line to ensuring that voters who come to vote in this particular polling station are indeed at the right place. You remember we've had issues of voters moving from one particular polling station and going to a different one owing to the matters to do with directives, and the moment you just come to this particular polling station, you're first asked to say your name, and whatever letter your name starts with, you're guided to a particular polling station where you're supposed to cast your vote. And Victor, like we were at previously at Gashororo Primary School and a couple of other polling stations around, the voter turnout is still the same, but that is not to get surprised about, owing to the fact that previous by-elections have recorded tentatively low voter turnout across the country. And so we will be moving around matters security. Everything has been enhanced and everything is moving as planned, but the issue of voters coming out probably to cast their vote in favor of their candidate is not very pleasing, so to speak. And so we'll be waiting to see, probably move to other polling stations and see what the numbers have to say in those particular polling stations. Over to you, Victor.
Okay. Gladys, just before I let you go, you have given us a very good civic education on what's the process, on how an election should be conducted. Fair enough. But then the question is, for almost 4 or 5 minutes, we've not seen any particular voter streaming in there to cast his or her ballot. Almost all the officials there, as per your cameraman, are just sitting, waiting for people to vote. What is happening? What do you think has contributed largely to that? And how many polling stations do we have in that particular constituency?
I really get your concerns as first as a journalist and a member of the public and a Kenyan resident for that matter. And like you rightly put it, there is relatively very low voter turnout, and as you can see, there is no one casting their vote in this particular stream where I am at the moment. And I believe that could perhaps be contributed to the fact that the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission banned the aspect of candidates campaigning physically like we're used to, and the aspect of campaigning on social media could perhaps have led to the numbers even dwindling even further, bearing in mind that not every other person is online, and perhaps reaching them would have been an issue. But that notwithstanding, the aspect of civic education is an issue that perhaps needs to be looked into, and candidates as well as members of the public, or those charged with the responsibility of conducting civic education, going outside there and educating members of the public indeed the rights of participating in the democratic process, and the pros and cons that comes with undertaking or partaking in an election exercise or by-election for that matter. And indeed, if they don't participate in that particular by-election, what they stand to lose, because they say, or it is said that if the bad leaders are in power because people refuse to come out and vote. So later on, Victor, I'll be speaking to a few members of the public later on in our bulletins, and I'll be asking them probably why they opted for candidate X and not X, and bearing in mind the aspect of voting is a personal and a very private choice. So we'll not be expecting them to tell us indeed what candidate they are voting for, but we'll be speaking to them and getting to understand probably why they even came out to vote, what pushed them, or what ideologies by irrespective candidates made them to come and cast their votes. I believe I've answered your question correctly. Unless there is more question, I'll hand it over to you, Victor.
All right. Gladys, having covered elections in the past, it's quite open that Kenyans, we have got some kind of unique behaviors. Being on a Tuesday, we would need to excuse the voters in Georgia that, you know, they woke up, they still went about their businesses, some took their kids to school, some went to, you know, to hustle, as they put it, to, you know, make a living here and there before they come and cast their ballot. But it should be noted that IEBC might not be pleased to extend the voter deadline. That should be around 5 p.m. If you don't have enough time to go and vote right now, then don't complain later on if your preferred candidate doesn't win. It's just that simple. Gladys, thank you so much. Let's get connected later on and give us an update of what's happening. For like around 8-10 minutes, Gladys, you're free to go now, all right? For like around 8 minutes, 10 minutes that we've been talking to Gladys, in that particular polling station, we have seen no one going to cast his or her ballot. That says a lot, all right? So we'll also have a package story, and we are going to give our reporters on the ground to give us an update on what's happening there, and we'll be updated on subsequent bulletin, that is 1 p.m., 7 and 9. All right? Dr. Joseph Rotich, my director, says that we are stuck of time, and we've actually gone past almost 2 hours today. All right, we've had a good time. I just need to thank you. Yes, exactly.
The reports that we have had.
Oh, exactly. Yes. Let me just thank you for that because we are running out of time, and we can do this again next Tuesday. All right.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, you as our viewer, for taking your time. We always appreciate Dr. Simeha from Vihiga and Dr. Masanga, who is also left already. We appreciate your valid company. Thank you so much. Let's do this again tomorrow. My name is Victor Lowe, and you have a good morning. Bye-bye.
Next on.
Mimi naitwa mzee Sawasawa. Nitalimadha lenyewe. Safishe roho yangu. Ponda mali at your own risk.
Wow. Yaani kila siku kila nikikukanya wewe usikii waleta ukibadilisha tu.
Mimi ni tajiri bwana.
Basi uniambia ujao wewe. Huyu nani baba huyu?
This is my house girl.
Mimi house girl.
Kidogo ulimi mkojoa.
Angalia vile unashusha hadhi. Subiri kuteseka baba.
Wazungu wasema it's okay.
Next on.
The stone that the builder refused, yeah, shall be the head cornerstone. Freedom, free the dumb. You should be free to speak, yeah. Say, only child can say. Who can hear? Who can help? Where will I go? What will I do? Who will I be without?
Kupata skiza tune hii, jiamini, dial
811 star 397 hash.
Jiamini na ujikubali kuwa wewe kibinafsi. Ikiwezekana, cheza kama wewe, kwa sababu wengine wote wameshachukuliwa. Aliyesalia ni wewe mwenyewe, na kando yako hakuna mwingine. Inakufaa kucheza ngoma kiwewe, kana kwamba hamna yeyote anayekutazama. Kuwa mabadiliko
Ili kupata skiza tune hiyo ya Jiamini, dial star 811 star 397 hash. Star 811 star 397 hash.
Did you know you can take up a funeral insurance, also known as last expense, for your loved ones? Consider taking a funeral cover to avoid unnecessary stress and fundraising when you lose a loved one. This policy covers funeral-related expenses such as burial fees, transportation costs, and grave preparation. Now you know. IRA, promoting insurance, protecting the insured. Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You're really gonna take me?
Yes, sir. You're afraid to take the bike you broke and fixed, huh?
What do you mean?
Hold on tight. I drive fast.
Hold you tight?
Chan can't answer the phone right now. She asked me to take her calls.
What? What's she doing? Why can't she answer herself?
Hello?
Hugo, where are you? Actually, I don't care. If you're not back within 20 minutes, I would be out of here by tomorrow. You understand?
I'm dead tired.
You're so dead?
It's a figure of speech. I'm gonna marry your dad.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye QuickBin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353, alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickBin ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake, hizo miaka zote, mtu ajui kujua kuandika note, note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli itasaidia.
Nini nakusumbua na nini?
Nauliza, ni bwana?
There. It's all okay.
Mama yetu.
Aya, kwani ni
My name is Edward Kabasa. We'll take a look at the order of business this morning, where there will be two petitions which will be presented in the Senate by the Speaker of the Senate. The first petition is by Mr. Paulo Kiprotich Mosbey concerning historical injustices suffered by the Torobek community. The second petition to the Senate is by Mr. Kevin Ndobo Masharia concerning access to justice under the COVID-19 pandemic and the appointment of court reporters. Pursuant to Standing Order 47-1, the Senator for Vihiga County, Senator George Khaniri, will make a statement concerning the increase of fuel prices in the country. The Senator for Homa Bay County, Senator Moses Kajwang, will make a statement concerning review of regulatory framework for unmanned aircraft systems, otherwise known as drones, in Kenya. The Senator for Vihiga County, Senator George Khaniri, will also make a statement concerning the third wave of the COVID-19 global pandemic and concerns raised about its vaccine. The senator for Vihiga will also